South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A town square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
We are live on a Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Sending producing today's show. You out there. What's going on, everybody? Well, it has been an interesting day to say the least. We will jump right into the matter at hand. You know, Ben Simmons was supposed to talk today. He did not. Now, how many people were taking bets on whether or not Simmons would actually step to the podium today and speak? He did not. He was actually suspended and thrown out of practice today. He will not play in the game tomorrow night. He has been suspended by the team for one game for basically being disenchanted, basically being disengaged at practice today. He has been thrown out of practice today and will not play in the game tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN. So much to unpack in this one because realistically, this has come to a point where the 76ers might have to do something they don't want to do. They do not want to trade him for pennies on the dollar, but it's getting to the point where Ben Simmons is obviously there for one reason. Ben Simmons is here because he doesn't want to get fined anymore. It's the only reason he returned to the team. That's it. The video yesterday, he was not interested in being at practice. He got thrown out of practice today because he did not have any interest in being there. He will not play in the game tomorrow night because he's been suspended because he didn't want to be there today. This has turned into an utter disaster. And now it has become an absolute circus. Joel Embiid said it best. I'm not paid to babysit, and quite frankly, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Guess what, Joel? It's not going away. It's not going away, and they're going to continue to ask Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and Seth Curry and Doc Rivers until there's a resolve and a resolution on this. And the only way there's a resolve and resolution is if Ben Simmons is no longer with the Philadelphia 76ers. That's what it comes down to. It is the only way that they can rectify this. And they might have to get to the point where they do something they have said all along they do not want to do. They do not want to trade Ben Simmons for what they believe is undervalue. But at this point, they might not have an option. They may not have another option but to do something they have said they don't want to do all along. And look, the Sixers have kind of put themselves in this position. I get it. And at the same time, many people said, look, don't give in to this guy. I mean, at what point does the league say, Sixers, you cannot give in to this guy? And at what point does the Sixers look back to the league and said, look, what do you want us to do? The guy's shown up to practice now and he's disengaged. You know, there was conversation that he showed up yesterday with a phone in his pocket and he was just basically going through the motions. I saw the video. It's on our website right now, 973ESPN.com. The video of the team huddled up at the end of practice, and everybody's in the huddle except for Ben Simmons. And as soon as the team broke down from practice yesterday, Simmons made a beeline exit without saying goodbye or talking or saying anything to anybody. This isn't about whether Ben Simmons is good, whether you think he's a good player, a bad player, whether you think he helps the team, he doesn't help the team. This is about this Philadelphia 76ers team. The players, the coach, they need resolve. They need something to end in this saga. And while he's here, he's just going to get himself suspended. He's going to continue to get himself suspended. Think about this. Chris Franklin who has been on Josh's show a couple of times in the recent past. He covers the Eagles and he covers the Sixers. He asked Ben Simmons a question at the end of the playoff Game 7 last year. All right, Game 7 last year. Chris Franklin from NJ.com asked Ben Simmons. He said, look, at the end of that game, there were some chants in the building. Trade Ben Simmons. Take a listen to the exchange here between Chris Franklin from NJ.com and Ben Simmons, Game 7 last year.
Hey, Ben, toward the end of the game, there were a few chants that were going out there asking trade Ben Simmons, stuff like that. Do you feel like you played your last few minutes here in Philadelphia?
I feel like we just lost Game 7. That's about it.
Right. Would you like us to remain in Philadelphia?
Pardon?
Would you like to remain in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I mean, I love being in Philly. You know, I love this organization. The fans are great people. I mean, I had a bad series. I expect that. It's Philly.
That was Ben Simmons. At the end of Game 7, do you want to be in Philly? Yeah, I had a bad series. What has changed? Well, the next day he asked out, apparently, according to reports, he asked out at the Chicago Combine. He was asked that question at the end of Game 7. Do you still want to be in Philadelphia? And he said, yeah. He answered the question and said, yes, I still want to be here. So what has changed? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. The Sixers want Ben Simmons. They do not want to trade Ben Simmons for pennies on the dollar, but they don't want this.
All along, they thought, listen, we're a better team with Ben Simmons than without, but not like this. And you saw and heard what Joel Embiid said after practice today. Essentially, we are not here to babysit. And I think they had a good training camp. They had a good spirit about that team without Ben Simmons. But if he's not engaged to play, it doesn't matter how talented he is. It's going to become, I think, more apparent at some point that it's going to be hard to have him around the team if this is going to be his mode of operation.
That was Woj today on SportsCenter. They want Ben Simmons, but not like this. This is what you're getting. Ben Simmons does not want to be here. Period. Point blank. Does not want to be here. He is about as unprofessional as you can come by. You couldn't come up with a more unprofessional manner than Ben Simmons, the way he's handling this right now. This has turned into the worst case scenario for the Philadelphia 76ers. This isn't a guy trying to show everybody around the league why they should take him. This is a guy who believes that people want him for what he already is.
His engagement, I think, physically and also mentally has been really limited. And it certainly has raised the question of whether internally in Philadelphia, did Ben Simmons come back to report to camp to play or just be here? And I think you're starting to get your answer that this does not appear to be a player that's ramping up to return to NBA games. He's suspended for their opener on Wednesday night. Doc Rivers talked about possibly having him back at practice on Thursday. But this is a nightmare scenario for the Sixers and for the NBA right now.
It's a nightmare scenario for the Sixers and for the NBA. This is a guy with 4 years left on the contract, and he does not want to be there anymore. The Sixers don't want to trade him, and he doesn't want to be there. Mike, you have been the biggest Ben Simmons defender. Are you finally going to drop the Ben Simmons flag you've been clutching for years? Have you had enough egg on your face? That is the most idiotic text that you could possibly come up with. As I just said, this isn't about Ben Simmons, the player. I have said many times that Ben Simmons is handling this poor. This has nothing to do with what I perceive Ben Simmons, the player, to be. It has nothing to do with that text message there. That text message is so off base and out of touch. It's not being about a Ben Simmons defender of the player. Ben Simmons, the person and the professional, is a different dynamic than Ben Simmons, the player. And that is just a person, the text message, just trying to say, see, you were wrong. No, this isn't about Ben Simmons, the player, because the 76ers agree with me. They want Ben Simmons, the player. But I'm not defending Ben Simmons, the professional, because he's acting unprofessional. There's no egg on my face with that, you idiot. I have said that all along, that he has handled this completely unprofessional. This has nothing to do with what I think about Ben Simmons and how he helps this team out. Nothing at all. The only thing in this scenario that I have said is that the Sixers want Ben Simmons, the player. They obviously want him because they don't think that what they're getting in return is enough value. If they thought what they were getting in return is better than Ben Simmons, I got news for you. He'd be gone by now. If they thought they were getting a trade where they were getting a better player than the player they have, they would make that trade every time, just like every other team in the league. When a team makes a trade and they think they're getting the better player in return, they make that deal. The Sixers do not believe, as much as you delusional people out there want to believe, that Ben Simmons sucks. They are telling you something different. Because if all of these trade offers that they have gotten, in any one of them, they thought they were getting the better player, they would have made the deal by now. So the Sixers agree with me. Now, where I agree with this clown is that he has been unprofessional. He has completely handled this like an unprofessional baby. The Sixers get into a stare down with a guy who they think at least would handle this professionally. Hey, you know what? I don't want to be here, but I'm going to put my big boy pants on and I'm going to show up and do my job. And hopefully, my job, if I perform at the level that I believe in my own mind, Ben Simmons, can get me out of here. But this is a guy who's delusional, who believes he has done enough to get the kind of return the Sixers want. The problem is teams are offering stuff to the Sixers that the Sixers deem is not good enough. So that has nothing to do with how I think of Simmons as the player. I agree with the Sixers. They're not getting a good enough package. Just because you people out there want guys who can put the ball in the net more than Simmons can, that doesn't mean they're going to be a better team. The Sixers don't look at Simmons as, we need this guy to score. You do. They value Simmons. You don't. Because if they valued him the way you value him, he'd be gone by now. 609-403-0973.
And as you just said with the value, if they would have traded him for lesser value, wouldn't those same fans be complaining, Mike, that they didn't get enough value for Ben Simmons?
I think most of those fans would think that regardless of the return, that player would be better than Simmons because the fans value him so low.
Yeah, but wouldn't they also complain later on that, oh, you got this guy in return?
Well, down the road, when they find out that the player they got in return isn't enough to help them be any different. Look, I've said all along, the trade, if they make it, it's not going to make them different. It's making them better. If you bring in many of the trades that have been offered to you, you're getting a player potentially that's a better scorer, but you're losing the defense. You're losing the open court. You're losing the guy who can switch and play multiple places on the court. You're losing all of that. So you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Now, the Sixers value the skill set that he has. The fans do not, because most of them are deranged in that, well, he was drafted number 1, so therefore there has to be some sediment of he has to be LeBron James level player. If you're drafted number 1, you can only be this, because if you're not this, then you're not good enough. Not recognizing that most number one overall picks,
Are never
I got
that.
news for you, aren't LeBron James.
And they never could be LeBron James. It's one and the same. You can't expect somebody to be something that they can never be. The history of that pick is not LeBron James. History of that pick is Dwight Howard, Andrew Bogut, Kwame Brown.
Most number one picks are good players.
They're not LeBron.
They're not franchise-altering players. When you get that franchise-altering player, quite frankly, for Ben Simmons to have already made 3 All-Star games for a number one overall pick,
pretty good.
He's actually done better than a lot of the number one overall picks, not named LeBron James.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. Number one pick, John Wall. All right. John Wall was a number one overall pick. That team, how many times has John Wall made the playoffs?
I think twice if I double check. But I think it was only a couple times.
Right. People act like you're the number one overall pick, and therefore you are automatically this franchise-altering player. That's not reality, and that's because most of you don't live in reality. Here's the situation.
Only made the playoffs.
Say that again?
Karl Anthony Towns only made the playoffs once.
Right. These are the players that have been drafted number one. Anthony Edwards, no playoffs. Zion Williamson, no playoffs. DeAndre Ayton made the finals. Now, he is really developing into a nice player. He's actually been better than I thought he'd be. He's not the reason they made the finals, by the way.
Chris Paul, Devin Booker.
Markelle Fultz, we know what happened there. Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has been a 3-time All-Star. Defensive runner-up. Karl Anthony Towns. How many playoff appearances does he have?
1.
Anthony Wiggins.
I think he's been in the playoffs because he got to the Warriors when they were bad.
Right. Anthony Bennett.
That's a good joke.
Now, Anthony Davis. He has won a title, but he had to leave the team that drafted him number one overall.
Correct.
When he was with the team that drafted him number one overall, how many playoff series did they win? 1? 1. Kyrie. Kyrie won a title when they got LeBron. How many playoffs did he make without LeBron?
None.
0. John Wall. How many playoff series has John Wall won?
Counting that up right now.
I think 0. I think I have the answer for you. The Washington Wizards haven't won a playoff series since Moses wore short pants.
John Wall won 3 playoff series in Washington in a 10-year period.
3 playoff series? They got out of the first round?
Yes. Series.
Wow. Blake Griffin.
But Blake Griffin had Chris Paul and other guys.
Right. They went to the second round. They never got out of the second round.
Right.
Derrick Rose. Nothing.
Well, he was the league MVP at least.
He was.
But then he got injured.
The point is, these are the number one overall picks. Your perception of what the number one overall pick should do for your team is based on LeBron James and Tim Duncan and Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah, if you get those 3 players, yes, you should have anticipation for more. You got Ben Simmons, and you want him to be LeBron James, Tim Duncan, and Shaquille O'Neal. 609-403-0973. Hey, Mike, Lou from EHT here. What's up, Lou? Some of your listeners should have their interaction privileges revoked. With that said, the Sixers had to try and move forward with Ben, but now it's clear that it's not going to work. They got to cut their losses and move on, and hopefully the real players will rally around each other and compete. Lou, I agree with you. I think the Sixers thought that Ben Simmons would come in and be a professional, right? They thought that, hey, if we could just get him here and get him on the court doing what he loves to do, that will change his demeanor. That will change his mindset. Just get him on the court. He obviously does not want to be here. And guess what? He obviously doesn't love playing basketball, because you would think just getting on the court and being around his teammates that for 2 hours, that would, all the outside noise would go away. But here's the thing. This is what will not go away. And this is why Ben Simmons is acting this way, my opinion. He knows what's coming to him Friday night when he steps on that floor in Philadelphia. His name is going to be introduced as a starter, and that place is going to erupt in boos. That's why he doesn't want to be here. He knows it. He knows the second his name is mentioned. At guard, 6'10" from LSU, number 25, Ben Simmons. The boos are going to come at a decibel that has never been heard before in a building for their own player. And he knows it. He knows it. If you knew the whole building was about to boo you unmercifully in your opener, are you excited about showing up and stepping on the court for that game?
No.
Of course you're not. So why the hell would Ben Simmons be excited about returning to this team? He wouldn't be. But that doesn't give him the right to act unprofessional at practice. He can still go out and practice hard. He can still go and practice hard with his teammates. The problem is, it's like, you ever see the movie 3 O'Clock High? Where Jerry is the student newspaper writer, and what's the name of the guy? Buddy Revell is the new student, and he has to write an article about the new student who comes into school, and Buddy's a touch freak. And Jerry, the newspaper writer, puts his hand on his shoulder while they're in the bathroom together and says, hey, I want to write a story on you. And Buddy is a touch freak. So when you touch him, that's it. Your life is over. Buddy wants to fight you. And he grabs Jerry and he says, you and me are going to fight 3 o'clock today in the schoolyard. So what the whole movie about is what? Jerry trying to get thrown out of school so he doesn't have to go to the end of school at 3 o'clock to meet Buddy Revell in the parking lot. You know, he goes into class, he puts his feet up on the desk, he's smoking a cigarette. He's telling the teacher how hot she is. I mean, he's doing everything out of character, trying to get himself kicked out of school so he doesn't have to fight Buddy Revell. If you haven't seen 3 O'Clock High, it's a great 80s flick. What does he do? Jerry hires the captain of the football team to try to beat up Buddy Revell so that he is beat up before 3 o'clock. Well, Buddy Revell takes the guy, remember, he breaks his finger, punches him in the face, his nose is bleeding all over the place. And he looks at Jerry. You and me are going to fight 3 o'clock. That's Ben Simmons right now. He's Jerry. He's trying to figure out any way possible to get himself suspended, kicked out, so that he does not have to get to that game on Friday night. Now, you would say, well, they play on the road Wednesday. Inconsequential. He's not ready to play in that game anyway. All he's done is slid around in sweatpants with his phone in his pocket. You think he's ready to play an NBA game on Wednesday night? Of course he's not. They play Wednesday, Friday at home. Then they play the Knicks on Tuesday. I believe that game is at home. Guess what? Ben Simmons will find ways to get suspended again. He's Jerry, and the team is now Buddy Revell. The schedule is Buddy Revell. Any night there's a game on that schedule, the practice beforehand, Ben Simmons will be disengaged so that he will get thrown out and he does not have to go fight at 3 o'clock in the schoolyard parking lot. You're cracking up over there, huh? You like this one?
This is one of your best analogies ever.
I mean, it's the perfect analogy.
It's 100% accurate.
I can't believe I remembered the names of the guys in the movie.
I'm impressed.
It's Buddy Revell and Jerry. I can't remember his last name. What's Jerry's last name in 3 O'Clock High? I love the part where he's smoking the cigarette.
Mitchell.
Jerry Mitchell. That's right, Jerry Mitchell. That is the analogy. That's it. He's Jerry Mitchell. The NBA schedule's Buddy Revell. And every night there's a game on that schedule. Jerry, you're meeting me in the parking lot at 3 o'clock. Ben Simmons turns into Jerry, and he's trying to find any way possible to get kicked out of school. He's not really Jerry Mitchell was a great guy. He wasn't the guy who smoked cigarettes. He wasn't the guy who tried to get himself in trouble. He was just doing this because he knew the ultimate ending was he is going to get lambasted with booze unlike anything you've ever heard in your entire life as a home player in your own building. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN.
You feel better get that off your chest?
Oh, I got more, baby.
You got more?
Yeah, I don't have my read sheet, though.
That's my fault, actually. I know where it is.
Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. 3 o'clock high. Anybody see 3 o'clock high? Great movie, 3 o'clock high. 609-403-0973. Download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play. Big show today. Hopefully you're a part of the whole thing. You can watch the show live streaming on the YouTube channel. The video stream has got some great comments today. The text board is open, 609-403-0973. And, of course, the free mobile app. Hit me up there. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. 2:31 Sports Bass Live 97.3 ESPN. Call Jenkins for heating, air conditioning, installation, service, and maintenance, plumbing, and drain cleaning service. 609-641-6440 or JenkinsPlumbingHeating.com. I'm Mike Gill at Mike Gill Show. Follow me on Twitter. I got a great line from 3 o'clock high for you. So Jerry Mitchell wants to get out of the fight. He's Ben Simmons, right? Buddy Revell is essentially the NBA schedule. Simmons wants to get out of this fight, so he's doing anything he can possible to get himself down. Now, according to a report, John Clark says sources confirm that essentially Ben Simmons was asked to sub into a drill today, and he refused and essentially got kicked out of practice. John Clark tweeted 2 minutes ago, source confirms Ben Simmons would not sub into a drill when asked by Doc Rivers. Doc told Ben he was being a distraction and asked him to leave practice. So here's Simmons trying to get out of practice. No matter what, you and me are going to fight when that bell rings at 3 o'clock. And Simmons is like, not happening, man. He is trying to find every way possible to get out of this thing. So he ends up offering Revell $350 to try to get out of the fight. Revell takes the money and he says, you know what? You are the biggest bleep I've ever met. You didn't even try. How does that feel? And Simmons is like, I don't care. You know what it's like to get booed by 20,000 people in your own building? You're damn right I'm trying to get out of this fight. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. The Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I got a lot of text messages. I got messages coming in on the mobile app. Bob from Egg Harbor City. I think if Ben plays, he will not play 100%. Plus, his attitude could possibly seep into the locker room, could have effect on the rest of the team. Bob, that's the point that I think needs to be brought up. They're at the point now where Simmons' attitude has now crossed over, and it could affect the rest of the team. These guys are done with this. Joel Embiid today essentially said it best, right? Joel Embiid, he is absolutely done with the situation. Here's what he had to say today.
Our job is not to babysit somebody. We get paid to produce on the court, go out, play hard, win some games. That's all we get paid for. We don't get paid to come out here and try to babysit somebody. And so that's not our job. And I'm sure my teammates feel that way. So we really focus on just winning and playing as a team. The main thing for us is to have fun, and I think we're gonna have that a lot this year.
He said, I'm not being paid to babysit anyone. Joel has gotten to the end with this whole situation, and he says, it's not my problem.
Like I said, he just got suspended. His attitude based on whatever has been reported, I'll let you guys read into that. I have nothing to say about the matter. It is not my problem. I get paid to, deliver, and that's to win games, and and obviously the ultimate goal is to win a championship. And like I always say, I can't do it alone. I need these guys, and the guys that are here are willing to help me, and I'm willing to help them. And we're going to continue to grow together.
Simmons has now become the most popular figure in all of this. My guys are here to help me. I'm going to help them. I need their help. But if this guy doesn't want to help me, the hell with him. I'm ready to move on. That's essentially Embiid. Embiid said today, I'm not talking to this guy. I haven't talked to him, nor do I care to talk to this guy. 609-403-0973. Hey, Mike, is there anything the league can do to help the Sixers out here? This seems like it should be in the commissioner's wheelhouse. Tim from Millville. I think many people think that the commissioner's office may have already stepped in by saying to Rich Paul, you better get your client back in there. So Rich Paul says to Ben Simmons, hey, look, you got to get back into practice. Well, now he's there. And the next step will be, well, yeah, now you're at practice. You got to stop trying to get kicked out of practice. Cole from LBI. The Sixers don't want Simmons. Well, I think we disagree and differ on that, Cole. They would have never tried to trade him if they wanted. Let's pause right there. They tried to trade him for James Harden. They didn't try to trade him for Rocky and Bullwinkle. They tried to get James Harden, you jackass. What do you mean they would have never tried to trade him? Who did they try to trade him for outside of maybe the best scorer in the entire league right now outside of Kevin Durant? So they never tried to trade him. It wasn't like they called every team in the league and said, we don't want this guy. What do you have for us? They tried to get him for James Harden, Cole. That's who they tried to trade him for. James Harden. Dame Lillard, Bradley Beal. They're not trying to trade him for you. Right? They want Ben Simmons. They want him whether you like it or not. I'm sorry that many of you out there just don't like the guy, and that's your prerogative. But they don't agree with you. They would have never tried to trade him if they wanted him. They tried to trade him for James Harden. They didn't try to trade him for any other schmo. They tried to trade him for James Harden. And the only reason that got shot down essentially is because the Rockets wouldn't deal with Morey. So it's not like Daryl Morey said, you know what? We got to get rid of this Simmons guy. He sucks. Let's try to trade him for James Harden. I mean, are you guys really that... What kind of... Is there good weed going around the area or something? Holy mackerel. 609-403-0973. Mike, I never saw 3 O'Clock High, but now I'm definitely going to watch it. I love 80s movies. Oh, 3 O'Clock High is a classic. Great movie. Buddy Revell, Jerry Mitchell. There's obviously like the hot 80s girl in it that's like, you know, overly permed hair that Jerry like basically has no chance of ever getting, but because he's trying to get kicked out of school, he's making an attempt. Does anybody out there not seen 3 O'Clock High? Come on, man. Mike, when suspended, does he still get paid? He hasn't been paid since he's gotten back. Not since he's gotten back to the team. He's been fined $1.4 million for missing games and everything else. So he has not been paid since he got back yet. Why not trade him for Kyrie since Kyrie claims he's not retiring? The Kyrie thing's a whole nother situation. Right? He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to get the vaccine, not because he's an anti-vaxxer, but because he's an anti-being told what to do. Think about that. He doesn't want to be mandated to take the vaccine. So he's not anti-vax. He just doesn't want to be mandated. Sounds like a great teammate, right? Ben Simmons and Kyrie, great teammates all around. 609-403-0973. Mike, there's great weed around. All right, well, it sounds like it. Based on the text messages that I'm getting today, I would surmise that you are accurate on that. God almighty. That's apparent. You can see people's living rooms, big trash can, the bottom cut out of a Gatorade jug. Looking like you're stepping up to a hookah. Jeez. What day is it? I didn't sleep enough last night, apparently. 3 O'Clock High. Go watch it. Get back to me with a full book report. Mike, never seen 3 O'Clock High. I'm only 35. All right. It's still not an excuse. I mean, yeah, Josh says he's 36. You seen 3 O'Clock High? Yeah. I mean, I'm 44, dude. Not that much older than me or younger than me. You're 9 years younger than me. Like, I've seen movies that are I mean, But when did Caddyshack come out? Have you seen that? Don't tell me no. Whoever just texted from that number. If you tell me you haven't seen Caddyshack because you're only 35, that's ridiculous. Mike, Ben only showed up and got thrown out, so he has an excuse for why he's not present. We need Irving. F that jab. Let's go. That was an interesting text. That was from the guy who told me there was great weed around. That makes more sense. All right, more text messages coming in. I'll get to them, plus your phone calls, 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776. Cole says, you didn't even read my text. I did. It says the Sixers don't want Simmons. They would have never tried to trade him if they wanted. They didn't try to trade him. They tried to trade him for James Harden. I don't need to read the rest of it. It was asinine enough right there. You want me to read the rest? I'll do it on the other side. All right. I'll appease you on the other side. You want me to eviscerate you more with how lousy this text was, Cole? You're a great man, but your text message today stinks. Back with more Sports Patch. All right, 248 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Mike, do you find it funny that there are barely any contending teams that want Simmons? Yeah, the Warriors were interested, but who else? His stock is so low, they regret not trading him. No, I don't find it funny that any contending teams want Simmons because most of those teams are contending, and then bringing him in there would be tough to kind of integrate him for what they need. I mean, he's a guy. Here's the problem. Those teams are contending teams based on the way that they're built. You bring Simmons into a team, you have to give up something to get him. That's why a contending team doesn't want to trade him. They're not going to give up their player that helps them be a contending team to add Simmons. Like, adding Simmons to the team, the contending team knows they don't have enough to get Ben Simmons. Like, you guys think of Ben Simmons like, hey, we'll just give up a couple of spare parts to get Ben Simmons. These contending teams that you talk about, like the Bucks aren't trading Chris Middleton to get Ben Simmons. Because if they just swap them, they're different. They're not better. The teams that want Simmons are the teams that they don't want to tank. They don't want to be in a situation where they can't sign free agents. They see a guy that they can't get in any other capacity. You guys have a hard time understanding that. Minnesota, Cleveland, Sacramento, they're like, if we can get our hands on this guy, we'll take him. Because there's no other way we would get a player of this magnitude. That's why they want him. The contending teams, they don't have the pieces to trade for him. That's why they're contending teams. They're already built. So it's not like, hey, let's just add Ben Simmons, because the Sixers aren't looking to unload him for nothing. Yeah, if you want him and you're a contending team, then we want something of value back from you. Glenn and EHT, you're on 97.3. What's going on, Glenn?
Yo, Mike, I think you gotta get rid of Simmons' best offer. I mean, you gotta get him off the team. I mean, next thing you know, he's going to be hurt. So that's going to be his way still that they can't find him, is what I can understand. I mean, you're not going to – anybody's delusional.
Well, if he's going to be hurt, he would have to be deemed hurt by the team doctor.
Well, it's coming.
Which is right, which is a whole nother bag of worms, that if they say, well, he's not hurt, we can't find anything, and he's saying, well, I can't play, I'm hurt, then the whole, does he get fined? Look, this thing has turned into an absolute circus. There's no defending his actions by anybody in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was delusional from the beginning to think that he was ever going to come in there and give you anything.
Well, Glenn, even the biggest of Ben Simmons detractors would think that any man would be a professional. Just, hey, you know what? I don't want to be here, but I'm here. I don't want to, but I'm going to be here, and I'm going to give you what I got until you can get me out of here. No, he has taken a completely different route.
Yeah, totally different. I mean, he's a different character, man. I mean, you're not going to get anything from him, man. It's not going to end up good for the Sixers. They're going to end up having to give him away for a lot less than what they're going to, should get. At the end of the day, you got to cut the cancer out, Mike. You can't just let it sit there.
Well, now you're getting to the point where Joel Embiid, I think, is tired of it. I think Doc Rivers is starting to get tired of it. I don't think these guys thought the guy was going to come in and be this completely this unprofessional. Like, look, James Harden didn't want to be there last year. He showed up and played, right? He showed up and played. Jimmy Butler didn't want to be there. He showed up and played until they could find a way to get him out. Ben Simmons has chosen to take a different route, and now you've got a disaster on your hands. Here's the problem. Those two players, Harden and Butler, Glenn, had 1 year left on their deal. Simmons has 4.
Yeah, the fact he said he didn't want to play for him anymore and took the stance to almost stay out of camp, I mean, to me, the toothpaste was out the tube. There was no getting anything from him going forward, even when he came in. I mean, his stance from the door was, I don't want to play for you. Doc Rivers, everybody, yeah, we want him here. He didn't want to be, doesn't want to be there.
Right.
And with that being the end of the day,
but their whole, and Glenn, appreciate the call, man. Their whole take on this was, look, Aaron Rodgers said he didn't want to be in Green Bay. Guess what? He's in Green Bay, and they're 5-1. James Harden didn't want to be in Houston. Well, he showed up to Houston, and he played. Jimmy Butler didn't want to be in Minnesota. Well, he showed up to Minnesota and he played. So the Sixers felt like, look, there has been other instances of guys who said, I know what Ben Simmons said. He said, I don't want to be here. But it's not like it was revolutionary that he's the only guy in the history of sports that said, I don't want to be here anymore. There's a lot of precedents of guys who have said, I don't want to be where I'm currently located. But in none of those instances did the guy have 4 years left on the max deal. And by the way, he said at the end of Game 7 last year, I want to be in Philly. His actions suggested he wanted to be here. Why? He signed a 5-year max extension. That's why. He signed a 5-year max. So all of his actions suggested, I'll be here. I'll stay here. And then voila, he just decides, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. Guess what? If that's the case, buddy, you better start speaking. You know, this is like the guy sitting with the mobster in some back alley. And I've got the wrench and I'm ready to snap your fingers off if you don't start talking, buddy. You better start singing and telling me why, what changed, who's behind this. I want to know. I mean, Ben Simmons should be singing like a canary right now. 609-403-0973. Keep your text messages coming. Couple of messages through the free mobile app. Mike in Hamilton says Simmons only showed back up because he was losing money. He doesn't want to be there, and he obviously doesn't care about the city, the fans, or the team. Well, I think we're getting that feeling 100%. 609-403-0973. Couple more messages on the free mobile app. Mike, what did you expect out of Ben today? He's already in playoff form. He didn't show up. That's from Steve in North Cape May. That's pretty funny. Steve in North Cape May. That's a good one. All right, when we come back, Jeff Nadeau, top bets, early lines. Jump in. All right, Sports Bash Hour 2 here on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store, Google Play. I'm Mike Gill with you. Jeff Nadeau is here. I know that now the last time we talked to Nadeau, he said he's done talking about the Sixers, so I don't need to get his opinion on anything that happened today around this team. Ben Simmons was scheduled to talk. Do you ever see the movie 3 O'Clock High?
I have not, no, Mike.
Oh, man. I thought for sure you would have seen 3 O'Clock High. You got to watch it. It's a great flick. So Jerry Mitchell is a writer for the student newspaper, right? Buddy Ravel's the new student who comes into school. He's a touch freak. Jerry wants to write a story on the new student, so he touches him and says, hey, buddy, I want to write a story on you. So Ravel wants to fight him in the parking lot. He's this big, big dude, and Jerry's this scrawny little newspaper writer. So the whole movie is Jerry trying to get kicked out of school the whole day so he doesn't have to get to the parking lot at 3 o'clock because he knows he's essentially going to get his ass kicked. This is Simmons. He knows he's going to get booed like he's never been booed before in his life. So he's trying to find ways to avoid having to actually show up and play, especially in his own building, correct?
Probably. Mike, this is just getting more embarrassing by the minute. I'm at the point where I don't even keep track. I don't care anymore. And I know, I come on here and the goal is to talk about it, but it's pathetic. It's embarrassing that this is an NBA franchise doing this. That again is put in this position because of their inability to recognize what he was. He could have been out of here a long time ago, and this would be probably happening on another team. It's just a back and forth charade. The fan base doesn't deserve it. The people that go down there and pay, they don't deserve it. And this is also a team that, really, if they had won a championship, it's like, oh, okay, whatever. But this team hasn't won anything in decades, and they have screwed up everything that they've had in front of them. This is a massive screw up by them. It's that simple.
They have certainly, I agree that they have enabled him to a point that it's gotten here.
Ben Simmons was a bad pick when they made it. Ben Simmons wasn't ever going to be what they wanted him to be. It's that simple. But you're right. You did what you did. And I guess there were times when things were good, but this is at this point a charade. He's practicing with the phone in his. What are we doing here?
We got kicked out of practice today.
Yeah. What are we in 7th grade? I mean, just
reportedly, Doc Rivers said, "Hey Ben, you're in," and he said, "No, I'm not subbing in here." And
and this is what you want around your team as the season starts tomorrow or whenever the season starts.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, this is what you want.
Yeah, he has been suspended for tomorrow night's game, so he will not play tomorrow.
Yeah, but this is the charade you want around this team going into the season.
Look,
this is another wasted year. Mike, how long is this fan base going to stop making excuses and acting like this team is?
Well, listen, if I told you, which he's not, but if I told you Ben Simmons was my favorite player of all time, and he's not, he has been the most unprofessional professional of all time. Like, I can't think of anything that's even close to the unprofessionalism that this guy and Rich Paul should be ashamed of himself representing someone and allowing them to act like this. So if he's representing people around the league, I hope they take note of that he's allowing his client to act in a manner with 4 years left on his deal. That's a representation of his representation because Simmons himself, he's an immature baby. Fine. But Rich Paul, to allow him to act like this, that shows you what kind of clown he is, too.
Neither of them have any shame, but I'll say this about Ben. This would be the only nice thing I ever say about him. He knows there's nothing they can do. They still have to pay him. They still have to deal with it. He can be a baby. He can be a guy that doesn't look. If Ben Simmons wouldn't be a part of my life because I don't put up with people like this. These aren't types of people that I would ever want to be around. But Ben Simmons is he is the worst athlete in the history of this town as far as the things that he's done, the behavior that he's had. Like I said many times in your show, Mike, if Allen Iverson would never behave like this, but if he did, you could almost say, well, he put his heart on the line always. He was always out there playing and he's always doing his stuff and gave his all. But, this is a guy that has completely failed at every level. He'll never play here. You're going to hear that again. He'll never play here. What's it going to be, Mike? Let's say Saturday or next week when the game starts. Is he going to walk out on that court, or is he just going to say, nope, I'm not playing tonight? F you guys.
Friday night, they have a home game. There's no look. He knows what's coming. He's not an idiot. For as much as he might be unprofessional and he might be whatever you want to call him, he's not dumb, and he knows what's coming. Thunderdome is coming. Thunderdome.
Mike, when is this team going to say, kick rocks, rot for all we care? We don't give a hell if you ever come back. Don't come back. Why are they kowtowing to this guy? Explain that. Why are we trying to make amends with this freak? Why are we trying to do it?
Well, I mean, contrary to many people's belief, they think he can play. Many of the fans don't. So you got a stare down between the fans and the front office.
How long does this guy got to completely make your organization look stupid time and time and time again before you say, we're not letting it happen anymore? You have to have some shame as a organization in the NBA. This is the highest level of basketball on earth, Mike. And this is how you're behaving as an organization. What does this say about your organization?
This has been a 30 for 30 3 times in the making. I mean, they have 30 for 30s within the 30 for 30s that would be compelling to watch. By the way, I watched Bad Sport the other night.
Very good.
Headache Smith was the player. All right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was like a show. There's like more episodes.
Oh, yeah, there's other episodes. Yeah, he literally, I mean, Headache Smith was an NBA type of talent, and he, completely threw it away for, 40 grand or so. A wild story. It still's going on, Mike. You'll still hear about that stuff occasionally.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard now though with college now. Players get paid and stuff. A lot of Headache Smith and this year would make hundreds of thousands of dollars legally, so he wouldn't have to do that.
All right, let's take a look at some of the action, this weekend. We got some good stuff already. I like some of these games right off the bat here. Browns got all sorts of problems. That opened at 7, down to 3.5. Broncos lost at home. That's the Thursday night game. So let's get an initial thought on that early line of 3.5.
Yeah, last week, I guess I got kind of jaded, but you ultimately look back and you say, wow, Arizona was a dog to Cleveland. Same situation. Cleveland's a favorite again, and Denver's not Arizona, but Denver's a solid football team, right? You have a good quarterback. You have a guy that you trust all of a sudden, good defense. This is a Browns team, very banged up. You're not going to have Kareem Hunt. I don't think Nick Chubb's going to play. Baker Mayfield's completely a mess. And even if he does play, is he going to be effective? The offensive line has issues. This is not a particularly strong defense either. I'm beginning to wonder. I'm almost to the point now with this where it's like, why is Cleveland a favorite? Well, they're at home, but I don't know. I feel like they're not warranted to necessarily be a 3-point favorite. I'm leaning on the Denver Broncos here. It might be a bit of a look, Mike. You're gonna have to realize that the public's gonna get crushed this week. I mean, they won a lot of money last week. I'm looking at this and saying it doesn't make sense to lay 3 with Cleveland. I don't know. Thursday night games are weird, so I'll probably lean on Denver just because I think they shouldn't be a dog or 3 points right now to this current Cleveland team. It's a tough one all around.
It's been one of the more disappointing teams. Cleveland minus 3.5 on DraftKings, and FanDuel has it at 3. That's the Thursday night game. A couple quick NFL thoughts, because some of these games, like the Chiefs finally covered. Like they had been the no cover team for a while. They finally covered, and here they are on the road, favored by 5.5 against a Titans team who beat the Bills last night. So I don't know. Do you feel like the Titans are one of those up and downs? They're getting 5 points at home. 5.5, actually.
Mike, week to week for the Titans, it's all about if the offensive line plays well, they'll score. Okay, it's that simple. I mean, their offense is good. They're scoring 25 points a game. They're top 7 in the NFL. We saw that last night in that game against Buffalo. One thing we do have to realize, though, is Taylor Lewan's going to be out going forward. I don't think we're going to see him next week. This is a defense that's riddled right now, particularly in the secondary. I think they were down to like 2 cornerbacks last night by the end of that game. There's absolutely no other way I'm going to go. 56.5. I'm guaranteeing you, Mike, the books probably wanted to put in a higher number on this game. They're never going to put it above 56.5 in a regular season game. This is the highest you're going to see. I would play the over here. Neither team will stop either team. if you made me guess, I'd lean on the Titans just because I don't want to bet Kansas City as a favorite. And I think Tennessee's actually a pretty good team. And as we know about Kansas City, they can't stop the run. I think both offenses have major success in this game. I think it's 34-31, something like that.
All right, there's 3 games that have double-digit spreads. You don't see in the NFL a whole heck of a lot, but it's a lot of the best against the worst. The Rams Lions, you got Stafford back against the Lions, 15.5. That's it. At BetMGM, 15.5. FanDuel, 15.5. You can get it 14.5. That's a point difference there at DraftKings. You got the Cardinals, 17.5 over the Texans. So those two there, and then the Buccaneers are 12.5 over the Bears. 3 double-digit spreads in the NFL.
Yeah, I would surely not be running to lay it with the Bucks. I don't think defensively they're good enough to lay that kind of number. As far as the Texans, look, Mike, every week it's possible that the Texans get shut out. I think they're that bad. The Rams, I think, probably one of the better teams in the NFL. I had them last week. I'd back them probably again. Who do the Rams play?
They beat the Giants. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'd probably lay it there as well. I would probably lay it with everyone but the Bucks. I think the Rams probably cover against the Lions, and who is the other one? The Cardinals against the Texans. Yeah, the Texans can get shot out every week. Cardinals defense actually pretty solid. They've really played well, I felt like, the last couple of weeks. But it's hard to lay double digits in the NFL. Not any games that I'll be on here, but if I had to, I would lean Rams and Cardinals.
All right, college game. You got a Wednesday nighter, actually. So you got the Coastal Carolina App State on a Wednesday, Louisiana Lafayette, Arkansas State Thursday. You got a couple Thursday and a bunch of Thursday games there. But let's start Wednesday, Coastal Carolina App State, because I know App State's one of those games, one of those teams that are good to bet on.
This is a really tough spot for Coastal, Mike. They're 6-0. They're undefeated. They're the highest scoring team in the country. What that tells me is, though, and there's a reason they're the top scoring team in the country, they've played absolutely no one. Their toughest opponent so far has been Buffalo. This is a really tough game. Wednesday night in Boone, North Carolina, against a formidable opponent every year off of a loss. This is a huge game for Appalachian State. They're getting 4 points. Why are they only getting 4 points? Why is the number 4? This number should be higher. Coastal's beating everybody by 30, it seems like. You're also seeing a number here, Mike, a total at 59.5. Why is a team that scores 47 points a game only getting a 59 total thrown out there? What this is telling me is this is a low-scoring, tough game for Coastal. I think App State's to play. I lean under. Look, Coastal could come in and win every game by 30, but a lot of the numbers are telling me here that this is a knockdown, drag-out affair, probably played in probably the mid to high 20s, maybe 27, 24, 28, 24, something like that, 30, 24. I'm going to lean on the under in this game. It makes absolutely no sense to put this number the way it is. You're finally playing a team, and the total's 59. Explain.
All right, there's 3 Thursday games on the card. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 Thursday games on the card. 5 Thursdays, whatever. There's 4 Thursday games on the card. Any of those games enticing for you?
Well, I will say Tulane, SMU, Lafayette, Arkansas State, Florida Atlantic, Charlotte, all of them I would probably look over the numbers in them. Tulane is one of the worst defensive teams in the country, playing one of the best offensive teams you don't know about in SMU. Arkansas State, as I've said on your show before, is the worst defensive team in the country. They're going to get bullied. And Florida Atlantic and Charlotte should be up and down as well. Now, San Jose UNLV, I don't know if this will get to 40. It's kind of a complete opposite of the other games. San Jose State has had quarterback issues. Nobody really knows what's up with their starter. Nick Starkel hasn't played in 3 weeks. Their coach has given no explanation as to what's going on. They can't find the end zone. Defensively, UNLV is a mess. Tough game. I lean 3 overs and probably 1 under, though.
Jeff Nadeau here at Jeff Nadeau. Bunch of Friday action as well. Before you give our listeners anything that you like on Saturday here, does any of these Friday games jump out? Because there's a couple teams here that you have brought up in the past.
Yeah, I'll keep saying I'm not sure why UCF's favored in games, particularly against Memphis. I think Memphis is a better team overall. I don't like back in Memphis. They're a hard back just because their defense is never good, but I feel like they're better than UCF. UCF is not good. I faded them the last couple of weeks. I don't know. I mean, the Friday card is pretty bare, to be real honest. Arizona just got beat up by Colorado. Arizona has no quarterback right now. He's out with an injury. Washington likely shuts out Arizona. Arizona couldn't score against Colorado. I don't know how they're going to score against Washington. So I'd probably look at maybe a team total under with Arizona. But I'm really kind of focused on this Saturday card. There's some really interesting spots. One of which, Mike, is my favorite play on the card. It's a game that will be off the beaten path, but as you know, that's where I like to go. It is Western Kentucky and Florida International. I bet this game over 74.5. It's up to 76.5. So as usual, Jeff Nadeau gets the best number possible. Mike, this has the potential to hit 100, I think. West Kentucky throws more than anyone in the country. They put up more passing yards than anyone in the country. Florida International is one of the worst pass defenses on earth. Both these teams go quick. And, Mike, the name of the weekend, Max Bortenschlager, Florida International quarterback, has really developed a nice rapport. They like to throw the football. Top 10 in the country in passing yards a game. Both these teams winging around. We might not see more than 10 combined runs in this game. There's going to be first downs galore, and what that means is stop the clock, balls over the defenders' heads, big touchdowns. This is going to be one of those games, Mike, where you sit back, you get yourself a snack, you get your live betting portal open, you bet the over before the game, and then as the game goes, you just keep doubling down on the over, and hopefully we see 100 here, and you cash up and scoop like 7 or 8 different live bets. This is going to be a high-scoring football game, and I can't wait to watch.
All right, there you go. Jeff Nadeau's favorite play for Saturday. Get it in now before that number jumps. Do you have your favorite NFL game? Do you have an NBA game?
No, Mike, generally with the NBA, I don't normally share a ton of it until after the new year. A lot of the NBA strategy that I have is really just going and betting against the public. I bet with a lot of bad teams, Mike. It's just how I look at the NBA. It's how you can win and bet it. But my favorite NFL play, I haven't bet anything yet. The NFL has been kind of topsy-turvy for me, kind of up and down. I tell you this, I do really kind of lean on that Chiefs-Titans game. I think that's a high-scoring football game. I'm going to generally be looking at the Chiefs, maybe in a team total standpoint. Eagles-Raiders is a fascinating game. Finally, I think a game for the Eagles where you look at it and say, well, we've had some really tough opponents recently. We're going on to those snazzy digs out in Oakland LA, or where do they play now? Las Vegas. Yeah, I got 3 wrong. Las Vegas. That's a hard football team, though, to prepare for. They're a lot better than I think people give them credit for. Another really tough game for Nick Sirianni. Mike, this is a game where I think we learn a ton about Sirianni, as we've learned a lot. This is a game where you probably can win. You should play well. But are you going to get out coached by an assistant kind of interim coach? Probably.
Probably. 2-4 they are. Firmly in the playoff chase or not in the playoff chase? What would you say?
Well, if I'm them, and I think this is where we are, I would try to lose as much as possible, frankly. They're not going to win anything, so why are we caring? Look, Mike, they're going to have 3 top 10 picks. It's that simple. Miami's going to be absolutely horrific. I'm going to try to do everything in my power for them. They probably have to go out and get a new quarterback at this point. The other 2 picks need to be corner and linebacker. But the main goal, Mike, going forward and why they need to lose, it means absolutely nothing. None of these picks, the future of this team means nothing if Howie Roseman is still the GM. And I know, Mike, you are a stand for Howie Roseman. You're always going to carry the water for this guy because of what? I don't know. If he
that's not true. That's not true. I just don't hate him as much as most people do.
Let me ask you, do you want him in control of these 3 huge picks that he needs to make? No, because the future of the Eagles are depending on him.
Look, that is like people who say they have 3 picks, but it doesn't matter because he's the one that making them. I don't have that attitude. He's got picks right. He's like every other GM in this league. They hit and they miss.
Like who? Who has he gotten right outside of maybe 1 or 2 guys?
Come on, that's not fair. I don't know. Give me guys on this team.
The proponent of picks he makes are bad.
He's like every other GM in this league. They hit and they miss.
Well, they miss a lot, though. I mean, they don't, Mike, how come they don't have like depth at the receiver position year after year? How come they don't have depth at the corner position year after year? How come they never have linebackers year after year? Because they don't draft correctly.
Well, that's
They,
right.
they
Well,
take
the
Stanton injured.
the linebacker thing, you can blame Andy Reid. It was his
Yeah, well,
philosophy that
and that's a
that
philosophy of the
linebacker was
team.
not
You're right,
important, and
100%.
they have utilized like they don't draft certain positions because Andy told them that's the way to build the
Well,
team.
and the
So they
mandate of
draft
this,
linemen, which they do a good job with.
right, and that's fair. I guess I will say that the mandate from up top has been, and that's more the problem as well. But Mike, again, if it were my
Yeah, to
team,
me,
what
the
it is,
biggest problem is the owner, not like he
sure, I
is
can agree with
he's
you
the
there.
problem. Yeah.
But the problem is the owner you can't get rid of. He ain't going to leave. So look,
But
the
you're going to
owners in
bring a
this,
GM in here. It's like people wanted Jim Schwartz out, right? They got Jim Schwartz out. Now they hate this guy.
well, the owners in this town suck at every sport. But by the way, Mike, the philosophy, and I think you're totally right about that. The philosophy of this team is that stupid a run pass option offense, this stupid sticks defense that doesn't work. What I would do if I'm the head owner of this team is I would fire Howie Roseman, I would fire Nick Sirianni, I would put a new coach and a new GM in place and start fresh. And you have 3 big picks. You've got a decent little foundation of a team. I don't think you're that far off, but it's the owner and the mandate up top that screwed this team as well.
All right, Jeff Nadeau. He'll be back on Thursday as well. We'll take a look at Thursday Night Football, the weekend. There's a lot of college Thursday, Friday, and then we'll get a better look at the Saturday card. All right, man.
Okay, Mike. Thank you.
Don't forget, Jeff Nadeau's got the sit down. You can check that out. And his Patreon
Hey,
show
Mike,
is on go ahead.
Yeah, one other quick point I wanted to tell you. Wednesday show on the sit down. We mention Netflix all the time on here. We actually did an episode we talked about the Jimmy Galante hockey video.
Yeah.
You've seen that, right?
Yep.
So we did a show on Matty the Horse Iniello, the guy that he was kicking up to. We talked in depth about Jimmy Galante and who Matty was. Mike, this is a guy that was a war hero, had a piece of Mickey Mantle in the 50s, was at the hit where Crazy Joe Gallo was killed. We saw it in The Irishman. He had a fascinating life, and then he gets involved with Jimmy Galante and ultimately gets put in prison. So they arrested him when he was watching The Godfather. It was just a really wild life. So check out that show that podcast if you liked the show on Netflix.
It's called The Sit Down. Check it out with Jeff Nadeau.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Jeff. Take care, man. There's Jeff Nadeau here on a Sports Bash Tuesday, and he'll be back on Thursday show to give us more information. All right, when we come back, Michael Kasky-Blomain from CBS Sports covers the NBA and the Sixers. He'll give us what he knows about Ben Simmons' future, and is it now evident that the Sixers might have to change their course here? That's coming up next with MKB. Michael Kasky-Blomain next. Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Michael Kasky-Blomain, CBS Sports, covers the NBA, set to join me here as a wild day happened. This hour brought to you by Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union. Visit jerseyshorefcu.org for more information. All right, MKB is here. Now, MKB, were you in attendance today at Sixers practice?
Yeah, I was there, Mike.
All right. Was it one of the most wild days that you have been at the Camden facility?
Yeah, technically, but unfortunately, as you know, you've been there. Most of the good stuff happens behind the curtain.
Right.
So by the time we got to see any action, Ben was already nowhere to be seen, and it was getting reported that he had already been kicked out. So we didn't really get to see the juiciness, but obviously all the fallout from it was.
Now, did you know that? So you guys are waiting for him to speak. Did somebody say to you guys, hey, Ben's been kicked out of practice, or did you find out afterwards, like, hey, when's he going to speak? Oh, he got kicked out.
Yeah, once the curtain was open, I think some people were looking for him, obviously, to see if he was going to be around. And one of the PR people came and told some of the media members. And obviously then, word spread around pretty quickly.
So essentially they're like, hey, Ben's not going to talk today. Did they volunteer that he got kicked out of practice, or did you find out the way I found out through an email?
Yeah, they put out that press release pretty quickly, I think, to get out ahead of it. So I think that was the first thing. They sent that out. We all got that, and then obviously it was confirmed that he wasn't going to be speaking to media today like he was supposed to.
Okay, so now we're at this impasse where he gets kicked out. He doesn't speak yet. The last time we heard him was 4 months ago today in Game 7. That's the last we heard of him. Chris Franklin asked him, do you want to be in Philadelphia, right? That was the question that he was asked. And Ben Simmons answered that question by saying that, yes, he wants to be back in Philadelphia. Well, that's obviously not true. So, with him getting kicked out of practice today, is it evident that Ben has no intention of wanting to be here to the point that he will continue to act out until he gets what he wants?
Yeah, I think so, Mike. I think that's a pretty, fair way to sum up the situation, which I don't think is a huge surprise. Obviously, his return to Philly was completely motivated by the money that he was losing in those preseason games. There was, his stance about wanting to be traded, not wanting to continue on as a member of the organization has never wavered. His behavior during the first few practices, from what I've, been able to gather, has been kind of up and down, a lot of disengagedness, kind of, aloof away from the team. And I think, until a situation is resolved, it's going to be more of that. I think it's his way now of, instead of staying away from the team and losing the money, it's almost, I think he's trying to force the hand of the organization and say, all right, if I'm here, I'm going to be a distraction for this team that has high aspirations. So, the quicker you trade me, the better for not only me now, but also for the organization.
Michael, why and how? I mean, I would say this. I likened it earlier. I don't know. How old are you?
Oh, man, you're making me air out my age on radio, Mike?
It's not like you're a woman here, man.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm 34.
All right, you're 34. Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie 3 O'Clock High?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Ben Simmons is Jerry Mitchell. He's trying to get kicked out of practice because he knows what's coming. At 3 o'clock, if he gets into a fight with those Sixers fans, he is going to get his ass kicked, and he wants nothing to do with it. So he is going to practice, and he is trying to figure out any way possible to get kicked out of school so he doesn't have to face those fans, right? That's why he doesn't want to be here, because he knows what's coming to him. These people don't want him here, and he knows it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair, Mike. And in fairness to him, it's not the worst plan. We've seen it work to an extent with James Harden last year, who basically misbehaved his way out of Houston. Anthony Davis was, kind of up and down toward the end of his tenure with New Orleans. And unfortunately, that's kind of just the way it is with the NBA now when these players sign these long, massive deals. And if they want to get traded and they're still under contract, one of the ways to make it happen is to force the organization's hand. I think this situation will be different because in those cases they didn't have the long-term contract that Ben has with 4 more years. So it's kind of still at square one to me, where it's a standoff and a staring contest between Ben and between Daryl Morey and the Sixers ownership, and it's a matter of which one is going to blink first.
Yeah, at this point, I know the Sixers, Michael, have been holding out hope that he would be a professional, right? That's obviously not what's happening here. So, does Daryl Morey have to rethink their position?
I don't think he has to, Mike, given the fact, obviously, that the contract is still, it is what it is. But I think like you said, I think the last thing that the team was kind of holding out hope for was that, Ben would indeed be able to be a professional, obviously kind of put this aside, play for the time being and bide his time, make the best out of a situation until, a trade potentially occurred. Like you said, that's obviously not going to be the case. And I just don't know how Ben could be around the team at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a situation where, some agreements reached financially where he's away from the team until maybe a deal materializes a month or two into the season. Because from, everything I've heard is that's what the Sixers are really waiting for, which makes sense based on precedent. They want the season to start. Maybe some teams will underperform, some players will become disgruntled, and things kind of reshake up on the trade front, which has been dead now since August. Until that happens, I don't see the Sixers making a move for what they see to be pennies on the dollar, and it doesn't seem like Ben is going to, suddenly turn into an ideal teammate again. So it's a really interesting situation, obviously.
Yeah. What do you make of where is Doc Rivers at this point with this whole, is he done with it? Has he hit a boiling point? Is he handling it well? How would you first kind of encapsulate the way that Doc is feeling, in your opinion, about this situation?
I think exasperated would be the best word, Mike. I think it's definitely a distraction, if not for the team, at least for him, trying to, get the team prepared for the season to come in and now have this, juggling act where he's trying to get Ben into drills, into the rotation. He's getting pushed back. He hasn't been there. And, there's just a lot going on. And it seems he's trying to do the best that he can. But, there's no real formula or path to follow here. I think he's kind of just going by the seat of his pants as things are happening. But to me, based off his attitude today and, obviously the fact that he kicked him out, the way he explained it, it just seems like he's frustrated. It's kind of becoming, a distraction for a coach that would much rather prefer to focus on the guys that are there playing and are going to be there during the regular season. So it will be interesting if ultimately Doc's potentially one that goes up to the front office and says, like, hey, listen, this is making my job that much more difficult. Potentially at that point, maybe, it would have an impact on the Sixers' plans.
What about Joel Embiid? I mean, obviously he said, look, I'm not a babysitter. He said that multiple times. And the one thing that you tweeted out, I mean, the way you tweeted it out, it says, at this point, I don't care about that man. Now, it's like, I feel like a Seinfeld episode. Like, which word did he, I don't care about that man, like Ben Simmons, or I don't care about that man, like the whole situation.
So I've seen that, Mike, and to me, I've listened to it, back several times. It's the former to me. He's not saying I don't care about that, comma, man, like replying to the question. He's saying I don't care about that man, as in I don't care about Ben Simmons in that situation at this point.
Right. So that relationship between Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, essentially, if it was whatever before, it completely sounds broken.
Yeah, I think the report that came out that Ben no longer wanted to play with Joel was, maybe kind of the breaking point. And then Joel came out during training camp and said that the situation was disrespectful. He said the right thing last week when Ben came back, that he was excited and hoping that they could move forward. Now that it's clear that they can't move forward, he expressed his frustration with it today. And I think it's almost like Doc, he would have liked to have Ben back in the fold. He thinks they're a better team with him, but at this point, it's a distraction to him. And I think he's kind of just annoyed and over the whole situation.
When you're at practice, is there tension? Can you tell that, or does it feel like, no, this feels like it could work, like it's being made a bigger deal? Or can you tell that there's this underlining thing that just is weighing on this team? Because, Joel's making it sound like, we're practicing good. We got a good thing going here. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it is accurate. In fairness, today was the first practice I've been at since Ben was with the team. But, the previous practices, it really did seem like the team was focused on the players that were there, and they were, working on new rotations, getting things going throughout the preseason. And then when he's there, it seemed like obviously today it was a distraction and there was some, something looming over the locker room. But I do think in general, Joel was correct in saying that these guys have been pretty focused on the season and have done a good job of kind of shutting out the distraction. It's a different story, obviously, when a player is there and getting kicked out of practice, though, as opposed to when he's on the other side of the country. So, moving forward, how much they're able to, kind of blank that distraction out will, remains to be seen.
Michael Kasky-Blomane, CBS Sports, at The Real Mike KB. Michael, give us a quick overview of what you saw yesterday. I mean, obviously you can't see the practice. We all saw the video. It seems like a very disengaged guy. And, the 40-second video of him doing the slides, whatever. But when the team is huddled up and they break that huddle, that guy beelined out of there as fast as possible. I mean, he didn't say, "What's up? See you guys later." He got out of there immediately following that practice. Did you get that as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And it kind of goes with what Joel said today. He said he hasn't talked to Ben, personally since he's been there about his status or about anything. And I think, that's kind of been the vibe with a lot of the other guys. They haven't talked to him much face to face. Ben has, been there for the practice sessions, and then he's out, as quickly as possible. And it's all, just the behavior of a guy that doesn't want to be there and is basically trying to make that clear and make things as uncomfortable for the organization as he can in the meantime.
So he will not play tomorrow night. Friday at all?
It's a good question, Mike. I really think they're going to have to figure something out where he's away from the team in the short term. Unless, if he obviously comes back to practice ahead of that game and they want to put him in there, it would be, interesting. But given the fact of the backdrop of the fans and all that reaction that would come there, I would not be surprised if there was something worked out where he was not in uniform for that game either.
I don't know how it got to this point. So without him, now what? I mean, Shake Milton's hurt. What do we anticipate happening with no Ben Simmons? What does this team look like? Are they a good enough team to be a top 4 playoff team without Ben Simmons?
Probably not as currently constructed, Mike, but when you factor in potentially if they ultimately make a move at some point during the season and they're able to bring in some reinforcements to the guys that they do have, I think there's still potential for this team to be a team that's in the conversation for the Eastern Conference contenders. In the short term, obviously it's going to be rough, especially with shakeout. The Doc floated out the idea of Korkmaz potentially serving as a backup point guard. Obviously Maxey will get a lot of minutes. So it's that's part of the reason that the way the roster is constructed, the Sixers wanted Ben out there because frankly they need him out there, on both ends of the floor. And with him, that they were hoping that he would be there in the short term and to help the trade value. But without him, it's going to be kind of a figure it out as you go situation for Doc at that point guard spot.
Michael Kasky-Blomain, they're at New Orleans tomorrow, Friday at home against Brooklyn, 2 road games at Oklahoma City, at New York. Their next home game is Thursday night, October the 28th against Detroit. They have a 4-game homestand: Detroit, Atlanta, Portland, Chicago. I got 2 thoughts on that. One, that Portland game might get ugly. You got Dame Lillard in that building. That place is going to be crazy on Monday night, November the 1st. Would you concur?
Yeah, absolutely.
We want Dame. They're going to go out of their way to let that guy know that they want him here. Are they not?
Yeah, they are. I mean, we'll see how much it actually works, considering he just released a statement earlier that said he has no interest in leaving Portland at this point. But yeah, I mean, that'll definitely be the first opportunity for them, the fans, to express their desire to get him on the team. So yeah, I mean, we'll expect them to be Philly fans for sure.
All right, MKB. I don't even know where to. I mean, listen, I'm no Ben Simmons hater. He has been about as unprofessional as you can get. I mean, there's no other way to say it. If he was my favorite player in the history of basketball, which isn't the case, I still would have to say this is the most unprofessional action that, I mean, do you agree with that? Or are you saying, well, he's got a right, or he's got, you know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree with the unprofessional aspect, Mike. And like I say, it's such a unique situation because usually when a player does this, it's something to do with money. They're, trying to get a contract. The fact is that, he got that huge contract from the Sixers and just hasn't lived up to it on his end. And somehow he's flipped it to try to play a victim in the situation. And to me, like you said, it just comes off as unprofessional for sure.
Yeah. Well, the way I see this, Michael, is he knows that these fans don't want him here. And he knows what will happen. I mean, he's going to get his name introduced as a starter, and the place is going to boo him unmercifully, and he knows it, and he doesn't want to face it. I mean, that to me is where this has how this is. That is the genesis of this for me. Is that to you the genesis of all this?
Yeah, I mean, not the only part for sure. I do think there was some, parts within the organization. I think he's been unhappy since they dangled him in the James Harden trade talks, and I think that's lingered. He hasn't felt fully valued as what, the superstar level player that he thinks he is by the organization. Yeah. But he's well aware of how the fans feel, and that is absolutely playing a role in this situation.
All right, Michael Kasky-Blomain, the Sixers open tomorrow night in New Orleans. No Zion Williamson, by the way.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
So no Zion, no Ben Simmons. You can hear the game right here, 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis on the call, 7 o'clock, and then Sixers-Nets on Friday night. We'll have them both for you here on 97.3. All right, MKB, I will see you I'm gonna try Friday. I can't guarantee that, but I'm gonna try Friday, and if not, I'll see you soon, man.
Sounds good, man. I'll see you. Thanks for having me on.
There's
All right.
MKB, Michael Kasky Blomain, all season long with us here on the Sports Bash. National NBA writer, CBS Sports, with a focus on the Sixers. They send him to all the Sixer home games. He covers the league. Sixers suspend Ben Simmons for the opener. He will not play Wednesday night. He was kicked out of practice today. For those of you. Now, Adam Silver is set to join the NBA today. Is this live right now, Josh? Is he talking about this? All right. We're going to have to hear what he has to say on this whole situation. Because Ben Simmons has 4 years and $146 million. I can't imagine Adam Silver is happy to hear what's going on in Philadelphia. Plus, football at 4 is on the way. The coordinator spoke. We'll have that. Brought to you by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. When it's your heart, you don't take chances. Be sure, demanddeborah.org. 10 on the top of the hour, 3:50 is the time. Sports Bash is the place. I'm Mike Gill. It's 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Download the app in the Apple Store or Google Play. Check out our website, 973ESPN.com. Ben Simmons suspended. He will not play in the opener. Joel Embiid then spoke upon it. We've got the story now at 973ESPN.com. Plus, you can get all the latest takeaways from the Flyers win last night. They beat the Kraken. You get that now from Kevin Durso at 973ESPN.com. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show, and hopefully we'll get some resolve to this Simmons thing because this has turned into a circus. Mike, this is from Fenton in Mays Landing. He says, Ben Simmons is a spoiled baby with no shooting skills. He has no business playing in the NBA. We need heart, not heartache. Well, Fenton, he has business playing in the NBA. He was a all-star 3 years in a row. He also was third-team All-NBA. He's also the Defensive Player of the Year runner-up. So to say he has no business playing in the NBA, it's pretty shallow. He might not be having any business to play in the NBA that you think it should be, guys who just shoot threes and score all the time. But there are guys in this league, believe it or not, Fenton, who do other things. It's like the Seinfeld episode where Jerry buys his father, the wizard, and his father thinks it's just a tip calculator. And he says, it does other things. Ben Simmons does other things. There is other things that happen other than just shooting and scoring in the NBA. 609-403-0973. More text. Joey D. in Ventnor City chiming in. Simmons eventually will have to go. If you had to guess, where do you think where do you and Josh think he could go? Morey doesn't like picks, so what's his value realistically? Well, there's some look, he doesn't want picks. It's not that he doesn't like picks. He doesn't want picks because this team is in position to win right now. Getting a draft pick doesn't help the team win now. They were the number 1 seed in the league. And by the way, they were the number 1 seed. And Ben Simmons was on the roster. He was part of the reason why they were the number 1 seed. Now, he was also part of the reason why they didn't win and got upset in the playoffs. But the team was the number 1 seed with a guy that all these text messages are basically saying that he doesn't deserve to be in the league.
At the end of the day, Daryl Morey has a history of trading for players. He doesn't have a history of trading for picks. He isn't Sam Presti. When he went out and got Harden, when he went out and got Chris Paul, when he went and traded Paul for Westbrook, all of these moves he made was about getting players. He's not about just getting picks. He's about trying to improve the team.
Well, that's because
now.
he's typically the GM of a team that's playing for championships. He's not the GM of a team that is rebuilding.
Right.
When you're in rebuilding mode, you get picks. When you're in championship mode, you get players.
Correct.
They don't want picks because they're the number 1 seed.
And nor should they want picks. We just documented earlier that Ben Simmons is a first overall pick.
Glenn in Northfield has an interesting text. He says, Ben Simmons shot 3 threes at LSU. Nobody should be thinking he's shooting anything. And at which point are the coaches and staff responsible for his lack of development? They enable it. Simple. He's a playmaker. The Sixers haven't been able to build a team in 40 years. That's not Ben Simmons' fault. I think he foolishly chooses to be himself and not shoot. He was realistically a Kawhi 5 bounce away from being a champion, at which point I wonder if we would be having this conversation. Well, there's a lot of yin and yang in that one. Yes, he's a playmaker. I do agree that the Sixers have enabled a lot of Ben Simmons' shortcomings. That being said, I don't think that Sixers said, we don't want you to shoot. Brett Brown and that regime were begging him to shoot. And as I said, and you guys didn't want to believe me, well, Brett Brown's the guy. Brett Brown wasn't telling Ben Simmons not to shoot, or he wasn't the reason Ben Simmons wasn't shooting. Ben Simmons is the reason Ben Simmons doesn't shoot, because Doc Rivers can't get him to do it either. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you locally by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destination all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. Andrew DeCecco from the Inside the Birds podcast going to join us in just a minute here as Football at 4 takes a look at the Eagles and the Raiders as they get ready to play this Sunday in Vegas for the first time. I'm imagining a lot of Eagle. Anybody in the audience listening right now going to Vegas for the game? Send us a text, 609-403-0973. Interested to see how many people in our listening audience are heading out to Vegas for the game. Got a lot to get into with Andrew DeCecco on how this game shakes out on Sunday with the Eagles back in action. You know, the Eagles 2-4. Can they make the playoffs? Go to 97.3ESPN.com. There's one big reason why they may be able to make the playoffs, and they have the weakest schedule left in the NFL. From this point forward, they have the weakest schedule left in the league, the most difficult stretch. They faced 6 teams that were a combined 20-14 over the first couple of weeks of the season, including the past two, the 2 teams that made the Super Bowl last year. So they got that going for them. But to get there, they really need to make a lot of changes and tighten some things up. And that's where we bring Andrew DeCecco in during Football at 4. Andrew, what's going on, man?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to make sense of all this Sixers drama that's unfolding.
Like even the Football at 4 is scratching their head at the Ben Simmons drama that is happening. Not as much drama going on the Eagles side of things, but there is a couple of things. They did trade Zach Ertz since we last talked. So I want to start there with you and how you think that will possibly change the offense. Do you think we'll see a change in the offense? Does Goddard get more burn in the offense? Do you think they'll have more stuff designed for him now that they don't have to try to share playing time between the 2 tight ends?
Well, on the surface, it looks like you're going to see a lot more Dallas Goedert. However, he still has yet to be implemented into the offense consistently. I think that the Eagles really need to find a way to utilize him out wide, to give them a physical contested catch specialist on the outside and utilize him over the middle. I mean, they so desperately need a physical passing option or receiving option in the passing game because they have a lot of speedy finesse guys, but I mean, it's just a very finesse team on paper. And I think Dallas Goedert provides a much more physical presence, which they so desperately need.
Now, when you throw the ball to the tight end, a lot of times young quarterbacks, Andrew, they like the tight end. It's like a security blanket. It's like a young quarterback's best friend. Hey, I can't see stuff down the field. I'll just dump it off. Why has that not been the case so much for Jalen Hurts?
Well, it's funny, Mike, because that was an area that you wanted to see Jalen improve in over the summer, and he did. He did go over the middle, utilizing Greg Ward and Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz in training camp. But then when the regular season started, that area of the field was not being utilized, and there was guys running free, and he was, rolling out to his right and throwing outside the numbers, and that seems to be his comfort level. I don't know if he's not a very big guy. I don't know if Jalen doesn't really doesn't trust his arm or what he's seeing over the middle, but there are opportunities to really exploit some of these defenses. I mean, Kansas City you saw that they opened with Dallas Goedert a little bit in that Kansas City game, and there was an opportunity really to take advantage of a pedestrian linebacking core. I mean, Dallas as well. There's opportunities there to really get these tight ends involved and even your third receiver, and he's just not doing it for whatever reason. I just don't think he looks very comfortable, and he is so quick to look off that read and sort of escape the pocket and go to what he's comfortable with, which is outside the numbers.
Yeah.
Hopefully now you start to see a little bit more of a balanced offense now that you have your top tight end and Dallas Goedert, and you don't have to worry about sort of satisfying 2 different players and making sure they're all getting their targets and things of that nature.
Shane Steichen was asked today, he said, obviously Goddard's role will probably pick up a little bit more. And then there was a follow-up saying, hey, we've never really seen him as the number 1 guy for an extended period of time. And, he said, I think Dallas will do a heck of a job. He's explosive. He's got really good hands. He's strong. He's powerful. He's good in the run game. So really excited about Dallas moving forward here. So they're saying all the right things. So what you just kind of talked about, is the game plan not including Goddard, or is Hurts not utilizing the tight ends?
Well, it's funny that Shane Steichen, listed all those traits that he has. We all knew that, which is why we're all puzzled that he's not more consistently utilized in the offense and made him more prominently featured. So, I mean, they said all the right things. You said that perfectly, Mike. But let's see if they follow that up with action. Because like I said, there's been a lot of instances throughout the games where Goddard's running free. You're getting him matched up on a linebacker that he's clearly going to win that matchup. And there, for whatever reason, whether it be game plan or Jalen Hurts not really being comfortable throwing the ball over the middle of the field, it just has nothing's really materialized in that regard. So now we need to see the plan put into action. Because now that they have Goddard, they got to find a way to utilize him. Because now they need to figure out if he's going to be their tight end of the future, right? I mean, that's what they really needed to determine. And they have like you mentioned, that they have a pretty favorable schedule coming up here, and now is a good opportunity to turn them loose and see what you have.
Yeah, and I would ask you, Andrew. Obviously, you have a young quarterback, but do you have the pieces around him that can help make a young quarterback successful if the play calling's better? Like, if you're going to dump all this in his lap, it's hard to imagine that he is at the level of a player that can execute this particular offense. But if you had a more traditional offense and the play calling was designed better to kind of balance out, do they have enough around him that they could be successful?
And I'm glad you mentioned that. You led that, Mike, because Jalen Hurts is being asked to do an awful lot for such a young player. And I really do think that while there's certain throws that he's just not hitting, and he's too quick to escape the pocket at the first sense of pressure, and he doesn't look off his first read, the coaching staff needs to do a better job of putting him in position to be successful and accenting what he is good at. Game plan is his strengths, right? But to answer your question, yes, they have a number of pieces there. You have two running backs that complement each other quite well in Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell. They can help in the receiving game, run the football to take the pressure off of Jalen when it looks like he's clearly struggling, and things start to snowball. I mean, run the football. You also have an explosive tight end in Dallas Goedert. You had a guy in Zach Ertz who really is a safety valve for quarterbacks, makes life a lot easier for them. I thought he could have been utilized even more so than he was. But then when you look at the receiving core, Mike, I really think that they need a veteran presence. They lack a big-bodied receiver that can go over the middle and win those slant routes and those contested catch situations. They have a guy in Devontae Smith who can get open. He's good release off the line, very proficient route runner. Quez Watkins is a good vertical threat, and I think that he's really shown improvement at working all three levels of the field. But you really do need a guy who is of the mold of a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's just a non-entity on offense. Yeah. But you need someone who is that 6'2", 6'3", is going to outmuscle some of these corners and help your quarterback when he can just loft it up there and allow him to go up and make a play on the football. So I think that while many of the pieces are favorable for a young quarterback, you would like to see a veteran receiver or a bigger bodied guy.
Andrew DeCecco, Football at 4 from the InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast, of course, bringing you Football at 4. Is this a meaningful stat at all that Miles Sanders has rushed for positive yards on 98% of his attempts? Is that just showing you how little they've run the ball, or is that showing you that they're not utilizing him enough?
Well, they're showing that they're not utilizing him enough. I mean, you saw last night was a great example, right? I mean, you saw Derrick Henry, and I'm not comparing Derrick Henry to Miles Sanders, but the first couple of carries, the Buffalo Bills defense was very stout against Derrick Henry. He wasn't getting getting much yards. But the Titans, they stuck with their formula, their winning formula, and they continued to pound the rock, and you saw positive things start to happen. That's what the Eagles really need to do. That's what I thought that they should have done to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, they are a very stout run defense, but you have to keep going and keep trying because eventually you're going to break something. And Miles Sanders has shown in his limited opportunities that he can get positive yards in chunks. And you saw last season, and again, in a limited sample size, that he's able to take a play and find the crease and create big plays. And they really need to do that, especially when your quarterback is off the mark and struggling. You have to find a way to get him settled into the game. And you have two running backs that can help in that regard, and they need to do that.
Andrew, obviously, the offensive line, you're going to get Lane Johnson back. I would imagine he's going to play right tackle, and Mailata is going to go back to left tackle here. So you got Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Jack Driscoll, and Lane Johnson. That's an offensive line that you can win with and run the ball with, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, I mean, that's the best option, the best configuration of what they have right now. And, I mean, it doesn't leave them limited or hamstrung in any way. I mean, I think that you need to try and run the football against the Raiders this weekend because, listen, they're a team that can flip the switch on and off. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, they had a down week. And when you thought that they were going to have another down week after the fallout of everything that's going on over there, they really took it to the Denver Broncos. So, I mean, you cannot sleep on this team. You don't want to give them extra time on the field. You want to kind of have some of these methodical drives, and that begins with running the football, especially when your quarterback has been off the mark the past couple of weeks. So I think that offensive line gives them the best chance to win. And it's great to see Lane Johnson back, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, last year, Andrew, we would talk about, look, the offensive line had all these different incarnations and were a disaster for the most part. That hasn't been the case. Like with all the changes they've had in the line, has the line been an issue?
Outside of, Andre Dillard looked fairly good up until last Thursday.
He got whipped
but
Thursday
you know
night.
what? Yeah, Thursday was not his finest hour, but I will say that by and large, Mike, the offensive line has really stood strong, and that's sort of a byproduct of a lot of these guys having to play a lot of snaps last year. In the case of Jack Driscoll and Andre Dillard played. They didn't play last year, but he played a decent amount as a rookie. So these guys weren't necessarily being just thrown in there. They have some experience. So that certainly helps. And then Landon Dickerson is someone who has really progressed each week. And I'm very encouraged with what I've seen from him. He looks very comfortable there at the left guard spot. But yeah, I mean, they really have held up strong in Lane's absence. And now they get their strongest lineup back outside of, obviously Brandon Brooks there at right guard. But I mean, yeah, they have to find a way to move the football consistently against the Raiders.
Yep, and we will obviously break down the consistency in moving the ball against the Raiders when Andrew's back on Thursday's edition of Football at Four. And, let's take a look at some of the defensive things. I talked about this yesterday with Moshe. I want to get your opinion. When a team has a bye, they don't have a bye till the 12th week of the year, but you play Thursday night, you get a chance to self-scout and kind of reevaluate things with these 3 extra days. Do you anticipate or would you recommend any changes specifically, I guess, on the defensive side of the ball? I don't know that there's any changes you would really make offensively. I don't think there's anybody that deserves to get benched or look to be benched. But is John Gannon looking at his defense and thinking about changes with these 3 extra days? Is there any guy that maybe helps this defense out a little more?
I mean, that linebacker situation is just a musical chairs. It's a very porous unit. I think you could see a little bit more Davion Taylor. I would play TJ Edwards a little bit more. He's more of a physical thumper in the run game. You're sort of really limited with the personnel that you have, Mike. I mean, I might find a way to incorporate a little bit more Milton Williams in there to help with run defense. And yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot. I thought, for the most part, especially, I mean, the Jonathan Gannon's defense, they got some timely stops against the Buccaneers. It's just the offense wasn't playing complementary football, and they weren't able to reciprocate that. And, eventually the dam will break against a guy like Tom Brady. And that's what you saw with the defense.
No, you're right. I mean, I talked about this a little bit Friday and with Moshe on Monday, which is, did Gannon make, some tweaks to the defense, adjustments, or did the Bucs take their foot off the gas a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't obviously fear the Eagles' offense, and once they built a pretty significant lead, to me it felt like being there, just sort of seeing how there were opportunities that they could have put up 40 easily if they wanted to, 45, 50 points on the Eagles, but it just seemed like they were almost toying with them a little bit, and they took to the ground game with Fournette, and they found success there. And they really were just draining the clock, for the remainder of that second half by and large. So, I mean, they could have, there was opportunities there for them to really exploit the defense if they wanted to. And they started to wear down, Leonard Fournette took some of those guys for a ride. And I would expect to see much of the same with Josh Jacobs this weekend.
All right, we're talking with Andrew DeCecco here. And, of course, football at 4. We get you ready for the Eagles and the Raiders. By the way, Eagles are 7-5. All time against the Raiders in the regular season. They've won the last 2 games. They've won 3 of their last 4 as well, and 7 of their last 10 against the Raiders. And obviously this Raiders team is a little bit different than the one that started the season, but they were pretty impressive. So give me an initial thought on the matchup with this Raiders team. And I guess you're kind of going off of what you saw. They just looked pretty good on the road against Denver. Were they different from the team we saw with John Gruden?
Well, it seems like they're playing. They played. It was a spirited first game with their interim head coach that they have there. A lot of times it can go either way, right? When you're faced with such an adverse situation, you're either going to rally or you can fold. And I initially thought that, given the circumstance that everything that was going on with the franchise, I thought that they were going to fold and that they were going to you're going to start to see things start to spiral. But instead, they rallied and they really put it was a resounding win for them. And when you see a guy like they have Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow is a really underrated slot receiver he gets a lot of volume there. Josh Jacobs is obviously there. Darren Waller you can move him out wide. He actually began his career as a wide receiver, as an undrafted free agent with the Baltimore Ravens. He can play out wide and you can move him anywhere. He's just going to be a matchup nightmare for whoever you face. And I mean, they have a lot of weapons, and Derek Carr is playing pretty much at a consistent level week to week. So I mean, they're going to have their hands full, and they need to come ready. Or again, they can get out to an early lead, and you might see a lot of what you've seen the past couple of weeks.
All right, this has been kind of the theme since last week. I do a segment called "Who's In and Who's Out," where I try to pick, who I think is going to make the playoffs and who I don't. Well, the NFC right now, after 5 teams, it is wide open. Minnesota and New Orleans right now are the 6th and 7th seeds. 3-2 New Orleans, 3-3 Minnesota, Andrew. At 2-4, are the Eagles legitimately in that wild card race?
They are, but they need to make they need to look at themselves in the mirror you hope that they did over this, 10-day lull, and reassess and figure out what their identity is as an offense and as a defense, because they have the players, Mike. They have the players on offense to be able to stay right in the mix through the rest of the season and be right there on the cusp. I mean, I view them as a better team than the Vikings overall. I mean, they need to change their approach and figure out and become a more explosive and complete offense, balanced. And on defense, you need to figure it out, because you have a strong defensive line. You have a veteran secondary they've all played a lot of football. Mm-hmm. So they got to figure it out, because right now they don't have an identity on offense or defense.
Yeah, I think Gannon's got to say, look, I got to trust you guys a little bit more. Sorry, man. I'm going to put more on your plate, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's not like they're not fielding a unit comprised of rookies or anything like that. You got your Anthony Harris's there. You have your Fletcher Cox, your Javon Hargrave. You have your Darius Slay and Steve Nelson. These guys have played a lot of football. So I think that it's time to sort of take the proverbial training wheels off of the offense, turn them loose, let them, give them a little bit more, put a little bit more on their plate. And then on offense, you have to get a little bit more creative and ask Jalen Hurts to do some things that maybe you haven't asked him to do. Play from the pocket. Do a little bit of utilize the weapons that you have and stop playing so conservative, because the screen game, I think everyone knows what's coming by now. So you're not really fooling anybody. You're not going to catch anybody by surprise. And hopefully they come out with a lot more of a inventive game plan this week.
Yeah, I know yesterday I brought up, New Orleans is 3-2, Minnesota's 3-3, Chicago's 3-3, Carolina, who you've already beaten, is 3-3, San Francisco 2-3, Atlanta, who you've already beaten, 2-3, Washington 2-4, Philadelphia 2-4. I mean, realistically, look, this isn't Philly's good or they're a Super Bowl team, but realistically, they're in the mix for one of those two playoff spots, and they have the easiest schedule statistically in football. Let's find out if this team has some adjustments and see if they can get that win. And they've won 2 road games already. To ask them to win 3 road games seems a little bit far-fetched, but we'll break that down more on Thursday when Andrew's back here for Football at 4. Andrew, good stuff, man. Appreciate it.
You got it, man. Look forward to talking to you on Thursday.
As always, Andrew DeCecco, Football at 4. A DeCecco NFL. You can follow him on Twitter and, of course, here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Football at 4 is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today, Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Follow me there. At 973 ESPN. I want to update that poll question. Poll question yesterday, which was, I'm going to retweet it so you guys can vote on it and get it back up towards the top. 1 stays, 3 goes. Philly past and present coaches. Vote for the one you'd want to stay in Philadelphia. Sirianni, Hakstol, Brett Brown, Gabe Kapler. Who do you think's winning that? I'm going to put my vote in right now. Oh, wow. It's a close race. I didn't realize this guy was the most despised of that 4-man group. Sirianni, Hakstol, Brett Brown, Gabe Kapler. Which one would you want to stay in Philadelphia? 1 stays, the other 3 go. I'll reveal that answer coming up in just a little bit. Stick around. You can vote at 973 ESPN on Twitter. By the way, Carter Hart became the youngest Flyers goalie to win 50 games, but there are 5 Flyers goalies who won 50 games faster than Carter Hart. Find out who they are right now at 973ESPN.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. And listen live on the go with the free mobile app. All right, Sports Best Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Don't forget, Tuesday with Thompson still to come. Rob Motti still to come. That's our 5 o'clock hour for you today. It's time for Who's In and Who's Out. This hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how. PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. This is the Tarzan Boy is the new Flyers song. You heard it 6 times last night. Are you already tired of it? I don't like the song that they picked.
I don't like the song, but I'm also kind of I'm the kind of person who doesn't really care too much about the in-arena music.
Well, I mean, the in-arena music at the Flyers game is terrible to begin with. I mean, it's like 1998 called and said, "Hey, like, get off me, man. Like, let me breathe a little bit." They just rock like bad hair, like hair bands and stuff. Like hockey music is just bad music to begin with. But the Tarzan Boy, like the goal song, means you're hearing that every single goal. Right. So I'm driving the other night, Friday night, I'm listening to the game on the radio, and they score 2 goals while I'm in the car. And I hear the Tarzan Boy twice in the background. I'm like, oh my God, this was just a terrible pick.
Oh, it's a bad pick for sure. Yeah. I'm kind of numb at this point.
You know what I would have gone with?
What's that?
Everybody Wang Chung tonight. Like you score the goal and everybody have fun tonight.
That was a good choice.
Everybody Wang Chung tonight. Like when you score a goal, you bang that, but right there. That would have been perfect. Instead, I got Tarzan Boy. Oh, 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 oh. I mean, terrible decision by them. I mean, come on, man.
You're doing a really good job with the throwbacks today. You know that, right?
3 o'clock high?
Yeah, 3 o'clock high. Now you're throwing out the songs. Although the songs are kind of your department anyway.
Yeah, the Tarzan Boy, I didn't come up with. They did. I mean, so that one was in my wheelhouse. But I heard it last night 6 times. I watched the game last night. I'm like, Tarzan Boy, over and over again. And it just made me remember that my pick would have been Wang Chung.
Wang Chung would have been a good pick.
Yeah, it's not that the Wang Chung is a good song. It's just perfect. Like, you score that goal, and that goal horn goes off. Yep. And it's like, everybody have fun tonight.
Yeah, little party atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean,
have a little fun.
Tarzan Boy. Yeah. Doesn't have the same, like.
No, it doesn't have the same.
All right, here's who's
it doesn't hit the same way, right?
No. Here's who's in and who's out. I think the division winners, man. Of all the years I've done who's in and who's out, this has been like the most separation, especially in the NFC. All right, AFC, who's in? Buffalo. In the East, Baltimore in the North. You know, Baltimore's the 1 seed right now.
How wild
Buffalo
is that?
lost last night.
How wild is that? They started the year with all those injuries.
Tennessee in the South. You know, Tennessee, they lost to the Jets, for God's sakes. They're 4-2. They're right there with everybody else. You know, Buffalo lost last night. People thought they were the number 1 team. They're now the 4 seed.
They'd be a dangerous 4 seed.
The West. I'm going Chargers. Even though they're just a game up, but they did beat the Chiefs head-to-head.
It's a safe pick at this point.
I don't know if I feel good about it, though.
Well,
I think the Chiefs are going to turn it on. Can the Chargers run the race with them?
Well, think about the rest of the schedule. The Chargers have to still play the Raiders and the Broncos again, right, on their schedule. So do you have faith in the Chargers beating up the rest of the division?
Well, I got this for you. The strength of schedule for the Chargers, they have the 4th easiest schedule left. Kansas City's 18th. All right?
All right.
So that would say that, yes, the Chargers can keep winning. I don't know if I'm buying it. They looked terrible the other day. Terrible.
That game really didn't sell you. Like it was that much of a demerit on them.
Yeah, that I mean, I know they're crossing the country, but I want to believe in you, man. And you threw up that stinker. You threw up Tarzan Boy, and I wanted Wang Chung. All right, my 3 wild cards. You know, Pittsburgh right now is a wild card team, by the way.
That is
the
correct.
demise of Pittsburgh, everybody, they are a wild card team currently. Now, they're not one of my wild cards. My wild cards are, you know who the wild cards are currently? Do you have a guess?
I would say Steelers, because you just mentioned it.
They're 7th.
Let me think here. I mean, the Chiefs got to be one of the wild cards, right?
Chiefs are not one of the wild cards.
Okay, they're not. So
Nope.
then the Raiders would be.
The Raiders are the 6th seed currently.
Okay.
So you got Steelers 7.
Steelers 6.
Nope. Steelers 7.
Okay.
Raiders 6.
Oh, Raiders 6.
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking for the number 5.
Number 5. Who's the
5
5 seed
seed
right now? The AFC 5 seed.
Would that be the Bengals?
They are 4-2.
Man.
The Bengals are the 5 seed. My wild cards are going to be the Chiefs. My wild card is going to be the Chiefs, Browns, and I'm going to go Chiefs, Browns, and
You just don't want to pick the Bengals.
yeah, I'm kind of out on the Bengals. Give me Chiefs, Browns. How about the Colts? Oh, Colts. You know why I go Colts?
Because of the division?
They've got the 7th easiest schedule left.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Gonna go Colts.
T.Y. Hilton looked good
2-4. Yep, they looked good the other day. They Wentz is playing pretty well, by the way.
By the way, how about the fact that they're using Jonathan Taylor as the receiving running back and they're using Naheem Hines now as the running back? It's confusing everybody.
Yeah. No, their offense looked very good. Now, they played Houston, but guess what? They got Houston on their schedule coming up again. They got Jacksonville twice. They have the Jets. I like that. All right, NFC. I got Dallas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Arizona, the Rams, Minnesota, who currently is the 7th seed, and that last wild card. I mean, I've had Carolina the last couple of weeks. Carolina has one of the most difficult schedules left in the league. You know who has the hardest schedule left?
Who's that?
Washington.
They're toast then.
Yeah. The Giants have the 29th most difficult schedule left. Carolina's 27th. Here's the teams that are ahead of Philadelphia in the playoff race right now. Washington, they have the most difficult schedule. Carolina's 27th most difficult. Atlanta's 25th most difficult. Chicago's 24th most difficult. New Orleans is 21st most difficult. Minnesota's is 20th. So every team in front of Philadelphia, they all have the most difficult slate left. You know who's going to get my last spot? I'm going to go San Francisco. Going back to San Francisco. I liked them before the season started, and I kind of fell off of them. But I have all the teams left. They're probably the best.
You trust Shanahan that much?
I just think that team's better than – I mean, the only other team is what? Seattle? Did you see enough from Geno Smith to make you feel good about them?
Absolutely not.
Okay. New Orleans? Am I going to bank on Jameis Winston?
Well, we might not bank on James. We might bank on Sean Payton.
Okay. Chicago?
I'm out on them.
Atlanta?
Yeah, that's a good joke.
Carolina?
Here's the problem with Carolina, Mike. Let me ask you this. If in a few weeks Christian McCaffrey and Stephon Gilmore play the rest of that schedule from I guess week 9 onward, how do you feel about Carolina knowing that those two are out there?
I liked Carolina for 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I had them in.
And that was without Christian McCaffrey and without Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's up for grabs. I'm going San Francisco.
All right.
So I'm going to go with. So all right, these are the ins in the NFC. Dallas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Arizona, Los Angeles Rams, Minnesota, San Francisco.
I don't think there's much, there's too much to debate there. I think it's just a question of if it's San Fran or somebody else right
Right.
now.
I mean, Minnesota's no gimme either.
No, but at least they're trending in the right direction. after a wacky start to the year.
Minnesota, by the way, has a bye this week. Dallas, how do you feel about that?
That's a loss.
Baltimore.
That's a loss.
At Baltimore, by the way.
Still a loss.
At the Chargers.
Probably a loss.
Green Bay.
Probably a loss.
At San Francisco.
Coin flip.
At Detroit.
Win.
Pittsburgh.
Coin flip.
At Chicago.
Coin flip.
Rams.
Loss.
At Green Bay.
Loss.
Chicago.
Coin
Minnesota's
flip.
schedule's pretty tough.
You might want to take Minnesota out of here.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Somebody's got to be. There's two teams that need to be a wild card in the NFC.
Take Minnesota out of it, Carolina in at this point.
Carolina plays. Ready for this?
Yeah.
They're the beginning part's easy. They play the Giants, the
Win.
Falcons,
Win.
Patriots.
Coin flip.
At Arizona.
Loss.
Washington.
Coin flip.
At Miami. Oh,
That's a
geez.
win.
I mean, they got a bunch of games here that they can kind of get back in the mix on. Let's see. At Miami. Atlanta.
That's a win.
This is where it's tough for them. They play at Buffalo, Tampa Bay, at New Orleans, at Tampa Bay.
That could be 4 straight losses.
Right. That Arizona, they got Arizona's a tough one. Buffalo, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, that's 5. So you're looking around 8 losses for Carolina, like 9 and 8.
Still make it in, but
Yeah,
at least
9 and 8 is going to probably get you there.
But it depends on that earlier part of the schedule, like you mentioned. If you feast on teams like Miami early on, at least it gives you the buffer.
Right, and you can't be Carolina and drop a game like at Atlanta, the New England game. Like if you lose to New England, like that puts you in the 10-loss range now.
And New England's playing well. I mean, we saw that in the Cowboys
I like
game.
Mac Jones, by the way.
I like what Josh McDaniels is doing with Mac Jones. He's not asking him to do everything. He's just asking him to run the offense. He's not asking him to save him like Nick Sirianni does to Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is the teams that are in that middle of the wild card mix, they all have the most difficult schedules except for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, just so you're out there, Vegas, Detroit, Chargers, Denver. See, the problem is they have 3 of the next 4 on the road.
Right.
Then after that, New Orleans at home, Giants, Jets.
Which are wins.
Bye. Washington, Giants, Washington, Dallas.
And by then, Joe Judge might be fired.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have a 5-game stretch where they play the Giants, Jets, Washington, Giants, Washington.
Those are all bad defenses.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
If Sirianni can get his head out of the sand, he could feast on a few weeks.
If I told you they're winning all 5 of that games, that would get them to 7.
Right.
They would need to get 2 someplace else. You get 9 wins, you're getting in.
Maybe it starts this week in Vegas.
You have to win. I think you have to win this Vegas game. You have to win. Okay, Vegas, Detroit, Chargers, Denver, New Orleans. You've got to get 2 of those. You've got to get 2 of those.
Ideally 3, but you would need 2.
Yes. Ideally 3, you need 2. All right, that's who's in and who's out. It's brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how, PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. Pete Thompson, Tuesday with Thompson, coming up at 5 o'clock tonight, right here on the Sports Bash. All right, 449 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. So I'm going to give you the how the Wang Chung song will sound, okay? I feel like you need to kind of hear it to get like a good interpretation of what I'm saying, of how they should bang hit it, okay? So let me get a call from one. If you're watching the show on the video, you won't be able to hear the music. I'm not allowed to play the music on the stream. I'm actually allowed, but that's a long story. I don't really need to get into, but I won't do it. So if you're watching it, you're not going to be able to hear the whole. If you're on the radio, you're going to get a better version of this bit or segment that I'm doing. But I got a text from somebody saying, "Wang Chung, come on, man." Now, when I play this, you're going to see what what you're going to hear. It's going to be better, right? So here is the call of what Tim Saunders on the radio, okay? So he would call the goal. Let me make sure that I got this ready to go. All right, there he is. So here would be the goal scorer. Ready? It's Tim Saunders on 97.3 ESPN. Here we go.
And it would be better in the arena too. This doesn't even really do it justice because you have the arena pumping the music.
Sure. So that's what you would get. Bang, right there. He shoots, he scores!
Yeah, that's
so I do it better
time.
Tim Saunders than Tim Saunders does.
Nah.
So let me try it again. So you would get, I got to cue it up to the right spot. I'm kind of doing without hearing. I'm going off of timestamp here. All right, so you would have the call right here from Saunders. I think that's much better than what they went with.
I have to agree. But I also don't expect anything less of you because one of your underrated skills is music. So,
yeah, like I feel like some people are good at pairing wine with food. I feel that I'm good at pairing songs with spoken word or verbiage.
Stop calling me an alcoholic on the radio.
Now, I'm not a wine drinker. That's your thing, right? You're a wine guy?
Wine, beer, vodka.
Wine, beer. Well, there's a lot there, but like if you're like go-to is you're a wine guy. You turned into a wine guy recently, right?
A couple years ago.
I
took a wine course, started sampling and trying things. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it up, Gil. No Wang Chung. Well, I like Wang Chung for the goal. You probably like, That's a terrible pick.
Anything's got to be better than that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like.
Should just go with Metallica and been safe.
What song? I only say this because I heard it so many times the other night.
Right, they scored 6 goals last night.
6 goals. I think the Wang Chung works good. I mean, maybe I didn't find the right part of Wang Chung. Like, that's the chorus. Is there a part that's more boisterous that maybe I could have found? I don't know.
I think what you played was fine. I think you gave the example of how it would work properly. And the idea is that
kind of hard to do it all by myself here too. I'm playing the guy's call. I'm going back to the sound, the music. I mean, I did that on the fly there, buddy.
But the whole point of the music is when you score a goal, it's party time. Let's get excited. Let's celebrate.
The caveman song doesn't sound right.
There's nothing about the song they use.
Speaking of Flyers, by the way,
yeah,
Carter Hart was the youngest goalie to win 50 games for the Flyers. All right, he's 23 years old. He's the youngest Flyer goalie to ever win 50 games, but he's not he didn't use the fewest games. Can you name the 5 goalies in front of him that won 50 games in fewer games? This is a Billy Schwein. Pete Thompson's coming up next.
In fewer Flyer games?
I'll ask Pete Thompson, although Pete's probably listening and cheating right now.
Right. So let me just answer that now, and we'll see if Pete will.
I'll bring it up to him, but let's see if you can get this. So, yes, this is 50 Flyers games.
Right. The most
Who
wins.
won them with the fewest amount of games needed?
Well, I'm going to say Ron Hextall.
Ron Hextall is on the list. He needed 90 games to get to 50.
I'll say Pelly Lindbergh.
Pelly Lindbergh is number 5. He needed 99 games. By the way, Carter Hart needed 103. So Hart is 6. Lindbergh is 5. Hextall is 4.
Would Bernie Perrant be on the list?
Bernie Perrant did not make the list.
Ooh.
Surprising, huh?
Yeah, that is surprising. Let me see here.
These are players to debut with the franchise.
How about Roman Czechmanek?
Roman Czechmanek, number 3. He needed 88 games to get to 50.
I was a huge Czechmanek fan.
These next two are, I mean, they're known. You would know them. I wouldn't say you can't get these guys. I think the second guy you might get, you might have some trouble with.
What about John Van Beesbrook?
Nah, he didn't start his debut with the franchise.
Oh, they had to start their career with
Yes.
the franchise. Oh, okay. I thought you meant they came in. I mean, it can't be Boucher, right?
Nope.
I mean, what about Nitamaki?
Nitamaki's on the list, but he's number 8.
Ooh,
He needed 137 games to get there.
All right, give me the two.
Bob Frost and Pete Peters.
Pete Peters.
Peters did it in 78 games. Bobby did it in 79. Czechmanek 88. Hextall 90. Lindbergh 99. Carter Hart 103. Dominic Roussel is next with 113. And Tiro Nitamaki 137.
Billy Schweim loves that Dominic Roussel.
Pete Thompson, Tuesday with Thompson. It's next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, here we go. 5 o'clock hour here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. It is brought to you this hour by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. When it's your heart, you don't take chances. Be sure to demand Deborah. I'm Mike Gill. It is a Tuesday. That means it's a Tuesday with Thompson. Pete Thompson is in the house. Now, whenever he comes to my house, they will say, is he a football player?
No, but I play one on TV.
Let's bring in the PT here and get a couple of there's so much going on, Pete Thompson. I don't know if you've been aware of what has happened today.
Yeah, I was watching. I was seeing some stuff. I even watched because there's a lot of places I can't go on the school computer, but I can go to the Philadelphia Inquirer website. So I was there, and then they were taking the live stream of some of the press conferences from the Sixers facility. But before we dive into everything, this happens so rarely. I have to point it out. You were wrong.
Wow, what happened?
The Flyers' goal song is not Tarzan Boy. I actually wanted it to be Tarzan Boy because I know that hook. The Flyers.
No. What is it?
The Flyers' goal song is "This Girl" by Kungs and Cookin'.
How does that go?
I couldn't even pretend to sing it. I hate it so much.
I could have sworn on Friday night I heard that Tarzan song in the background because I was listening to the game Friday night on the radio, and they scored twice in the last 2 minutes.
Well, they scored 6 times last night, and not once
I wasn't
did
listening
I hear,
on the radio last night.
I never heard
Tarzan
that
Boy.
once.
No,
I know. I would have loved to have heard that. Never heard that once.
Wait, what's the song that they're using?
It's called "This Girl" by Kungs and Cookin'. Kungs versus Cookin' on 3 burners. It's KUNGS versus VS period Cookin' on 3 burners.
Gotcha.
It's not good. That's not it. I don't know.
No.
Here we go.
So, oh yeah. Yeah.
And that's what's going off. That's what they picked.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
Thankfully, as you alluded to, the music overall stinks. It's at decibel 800 bajillion zillion, so your ears bleed before they even drop the puck to start the game. I mean, at least they played well last night. But okay,
yeah, they did play well. They played an expansion team. They beat them up pretty good.
And
now I asked this question on Twitter. 1 stays, 3 goes. Pete Thompson.
Yes.
All right. The category is Philadelphia past and present coaches. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your choices are one of these guys stays in Philadelphia. Are you ready?
Okay.
Nick Sirianni.
All right.
Dave Hakstol.
Okay.
Brett Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabe Kapler. One of those gentlemen stay. The other 3 you can let go.
All right. Well,
now, let me ask you before you vote.
Okay.
Who do you think is currently leading that category?
As in, who's the one to stay?
Who is staying in Philadelphia?
I got to think it's Sirianni because the book is so incomplete yet.
The other guys have such a track record of ineptitude.
Well, I liked Brett Brown, but I don't think he was the right fit. He was the rebuilding fit. He was the guy that could sort of guide them through the mediocrity, but he wasn't the guy to take them to the next level. I did not have a lot of care for Dave Hakstol, and I did not have a lot of care for who's that other guy? Oh, coconut oil. Yeah.
Let me give you a breadcrumb. The guy who's leading right now is at 38%, so it's pretty close. Second place is 34%.
Are there people romantically wanting Brett Brown to come back? Is that who's leading?
So Brett Brown would be your guess on who's in the lead right now?
Yes, I'm trying to guess who's in the lead. I know who I want. I would vote for Sirianni. Would be my vote.
Your vote would be for Sirianni. So you would say you're okay with Hakstol going, you're okay with Gabe Kapler going, and you're okay with Brett Brown going. You're going to say Sirianni stays.
Yes, that's my vote.
All right. Now, did you lock that vote in?
Sure. Bing, locked. Oh, you want me to go do that right now?
Well, it will change the voting percentages.
All right, I can do that. That's fine. But while I do that, we can talk about how people have short memories, right? And how quickly they waffle. They you forget. How could they think that Brett Brown's the right answer when they ran him out of town on a rail?
Well, because people wanted Brett Brown in because they're not out because they thought that you'd bring somebody else in and that would change. Like they thought that the next guy would get Ben Simmons to shoot. And I tried to tell them that that's not the way the NBA works. People think the NBA coach is magically going to like put his hand on the product and the whole game is going to change. NBA coaches have very little.
I just voted, so now I see the numbers.
NBA coaches have very little actual impact on a game. They might have an impact on a play. They might have an impact in a 2-minute spot, but people act like the coach is the reason why teams win and lose throughout an 82-game season. It's just not accurate.
Right, in the NBA. Right. But there's certain
NBA.
places where the coach is a little bit more important.
Football, because the football coach calls every single play.
Yep,
they have
designs it and clock and game
management,
right? I mean, I know there's game management in all four of them, but I think the game management is highlighted more. There's less timeouts. There's more
100%.
Opportunity for mistake in football than any of the other ones.
100%. I mean, the football coach calls directly every play. Basketball, he doesn't call every play. I mean, there's up and down. There's wide openness. They have a style. They're not calling every single play like in football. So the results right now are this. Gabe Kapler is the one that our voters right now would like to have stay at 38%. Next on that list at 35% is Brett Brown, followed by Nick Sirianni at 20%. And the one that everybody hates the most is Dave Hakstol.
Yeah, he's buried. He's way down there. But that surprises me, the Kapler. I mean, is that romanticism over the fact that the Giants had this epic year or the history of coaches that leave here, like Terry Francona left here, was a better manager somewhere else. Gabe Kapler, obviously, you've seen other people leave. Is that what it is?
I'm actually pretty surprised that Kapler is leading. Now, it's close. I mean, basically – it's, and it could change by the end of the conversation we have here. But Kapler's at 38%, Brett Brown's at 35%. I mean, it's pretty close between those two, and Sirianni at 20%. But you're right, Sirianni's here and he's not winning against two guys that people wanted out of here on the first train.
Yeah, just couldn't wait to get rid of him. That surprises me. The fact that it's either one of those two guys is actually, dare I say, shocks me. But I thought Gabe Kapler was universally disliked, so I'm really surprised to see him as the one that people want to keep.
The whole Kapler thing, and I don't want to get into the whole Kapler, blah blah blah. But I mean, you're now seeing that Joe Girardi won a World Series. The guy won a World Series already, and on top of the fact that he won a World Series, he was also the National League Manager of the Year when he was with the Marlins. So he has some accomplishments, and he couldn't win with this team. Kapler's teams were less talented, and he won just as much.
That's true. And then, of course, when he got talent or got out in a place where they were, that was sort of a rags to riches story too, San Francisco, right? I mean, didn't they find a lot of buried treasure and sort of, turn a lot of guys that were able to resurrect their careers out there?
Darren Ruff.
Yeah, man, that's my guy, Creighton. Yeah. Don't knock Creighton University.
All right, Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. By the way, it was good to see you the other day, Peter. I saw you at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and then we went to the witchcraft thing, which was a great event.
We had a nice time together at that witchcraft thing, absolutely. And I enjoyed being out, intermingling a little bit, giving out the molasses cookie. Right, I took a couple of those home. They're damn good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, so Ben Simmons today. So let's go over this real fast. Yesterday, Ben Simmons is at practice, and he essentially has the appearance that he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
At the end of the practice, they all huddle up. They're all in the middle with their hands up. 1, 2, 3. Team.
Right. And what's he 5 feet away, or
he is not engaged in that at all. As soon as they break that huddle, he throws the basketball that he has in his hand and makes a beeline for the exit. He doesn't say word one to anybody.
Yeah,
that's yesterday. Today they're back at practice. According to reports, Doc Rivers said, Ben, sub in, and he said no. He was asked again, Ben, sub in. He
No.
refused again. And
Wow.
Doc Rivers said, go home. He
Yeah.
dropped his ball and he went home.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
He literally went home. So, Pete Thompson, he has been suspended by the Sixers for one game. He will not play tomorrow night. But is this the end? Now, I made a reference earlier in the show. You might get this reference.
Okay.
Ben Simmons is essentially Jerry Mitchell trying to get out of the fight with Buddy Revell at 3 o'clock high. Because he knows what's coming. He knows.
Yeah, he doesn't want any
Thunderdome,
part of that. He doesn't want any part of being booed. He doesn't want any part of that. Yeah, he doesn't want any part of that Philly.
he
fan
knows
base.
that Thunderdome is happening. The minute he plays, he is getting booed unmercifully. So Jerry Mitchell was a nice guy. He just had to try to get kicked out of school because he didn't want to get his ass kicked.
Yeah, so that's what Ben's pulling. He's trying to get kicked out of the whole enchilada so that he doesn't have to go hear it. And you saw Embiid's comments, right? At this point, I don't care about that man. Boom. Honestly, he does whatever he wants. Boom. Shots fired. We used to say in the TV 40 newsroom when people were dropping that goes back to like the T.O. Donovan McNabb. Keep your name out my mouth, right?
Yeah.
That's
I think Embiid
the
has
toxicity of that relationship right now.
Embiid has gotten to the point where he is totally done with this guy. I think the rest of the roster is going to get to the point where they're like, listen, we can't keep putting this facade on. We don't want him here.
And yet I think they've coached up Doc Rivers to keep saying, for the sake of argument, like, no, we want him back. We'd welcome him back, and I think that's
Doc Rivers is a coach, though. Doc Rivers is a coach. He wants the best players he can get, and he knows his team is not as good without Ben Simmons.
Oh, I was also going to take it from an employer-employee sort of situation to where, like, maybe the legal team saying, look, keep putting that narrative out there. Keep saying you want him back. So then when he's not back, that's all on him and not on the Sixers one iota.
Right, but I mean, I think in Doc Rivers, in his heart of hearts, I think wants Ben back because he knows the team is not. But I think he's now getting to the point where I don't feel like answering this every day. Like, I'm done with this. Now, it was reported by Woj, who said all 30 NBA coaches would have done the same thing today. Basically, from what he heard as to what Ben Simmons did at practice today, it was that bad that all 30 coaches would have acted accordingly.
And if that's the case, then does this keep going on? Does this keep being a drama? And the players are trying to act like it's not that big a deal. Rivers is trying to act like it's not that big a deal. How is it not a big deal? It's basically the Marshawn Lynch in Seattle, where he was told to talk to the media and said, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Right? Ben just showed up so he didn't get fined, but he's certainly not going to participate.
Right. Well, I mean, and now, again, it goes back to 3 o'clock high.
Yeah.
He's Jerry Mitchell trying to get kicked out. He's going to have to do this every day. He's going to have to try to find a way to get kicked out of practice every single day so that he doesn't have to play. Because guess what, Pete Thompson? He doesn't want to play. Because there's a way to handle this and just be like, you know what? I don't want to be here. The only way to get me out of here is to play and get the phone ringing so people call and get me the heck out of here. He doesn't want to play because he doesn't want to get booed. He's Jerry Mitchell. He doesn't want to fight Buddy Revell. He does not want to. The Sixer fans are Buddy Revell, and he's Jerry Mitchell. He doesn't want to fight Buddy.
And if you're Ben, though, how do you think you're doing yourself any favors by not playing and not participating? How do you think that's getting you out
Pete
any
Thompson,
faster?
Because in his mind, he's a 3-time All-Star. He's the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. He's first-team All-NBA Defensive Player. He believes his resume is already good enough to get teams interested. Every time someone asks.
Oh, I think teams are still interested despite all the toxicity and all the craziness. Of course they're interested. But the Sixers aren't going to roll over and just hand away a valuable asset. And that's exactly what he is right now. He's a valuable asset, a disgruntled one, but he's a valuable asset. If Ben Simmons truly believes that he truly wants to get out of Philadelphia, then why wouldn't he at least go through the motions of actually practicing and or playing in a game to me, that would speed up his exit. Instead, this circus, if you will, it always all it does is show the rest of the employers, boy, do you really want that headache?
No, I think they're at the point where no, they don't want the headache. I think everybody involved doesn't want the headache. The one guy who makes the decision, Daryl Morey, is saying, I'm not giving him up for nothing, guys. Sorry. Because somebody texted in earlier, let me find that text message earlier. Let me see. That was a while ago. I think I can find it though. Let's see. This one. Okay, so this one says the Sixers don't want Simmons. They would never have tried to trade him if they wanted, if they wanted him.
Okay.
They only tried to trade him for James Harden. It's not like they said, "Hey, give me Pete Thompson." They you know what I'm saying? Like people are acting like they didn't want him because they tried to trade him for James Harden is like one of the top 5 players in the game.
Sure. And I have some good post-up moves, by the way. I'd just like to point that out.
Sure. But
yeah,
the Sixers are saying everything that they want Ben Simmons. They're telling Ben Simmons, we're not just trading you for, the offers that have been out there. They're saying these guys aren't better than the guy we have. Like, are you kidding me? They could have traded him 10 times already.
Yeah, they want to remain a championship contender. They believe that if they had Ben Simmons, they stay a championship contender, and they're only going to trade for somebody that gives them that same ability to remain in the hunt for a championship, not whatever fits money-wise or whatever fits, somebody from the Nets that doesn't want to get vaccinated, anything like that, right? They're not going to do that.
Well, this thing is going to be bizarre. So Friday night, they have a home game. He's already suspended for Wednesday night's game tomorrow against the Pelicans. Do you anticipate that he plays on Friday? I don't see any way.
So I don't know. I don't think he plays. But then the next thing will be that isn't there supposed to be another practice then on Thursday? So does he practice or does he pull another one of these
Doc Rivers
where they suspend him again?
All right. Doc was asked, is he going to be welcomed back to practice? And he said yes, that they're going to keep letting him come back. They're basically saying, look, we want to find out if this guy could be an adult.
Yeah, and so far he has not demonstrated that ability whatsoever.
No, he has not. No, he has not, which is unbelievable. Like, this is not the first time someone said, I don't want to play. Somebody brought this up earlier, and it has happened. Aaron Rodgers said, I don't want to play here anymore. They're 5-1.
Right. But that Aaron Rodgers wanted the control. I think that's a lot different, too. I mean, Aaron Rodgers wanted more input on decision-making and more, he felt disrespected because I think he was disrespected. Ben felt disrespected because of his own actions, not anything that the organization had done to him. He might have perceived they did something to him, but I think that's a different scenario, yeah, people hold out all the time and they get what they get. But at the end of the day, Rodgers, once he got what he wanted, which was some control and some input on the team moving forward, then there he is. They lose the first game. Maybe that was lingering effects. And they rip off the next 4 or 5.
Yeah. There was a question that was asked to Ben Simmons, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a question that was asked to Ben Simmons, Game 7 last year, okay?
Okay.
So Game 7 last year, one of the reporters asked Ben Simmons after the game. He said,
"Oh, yeah, he's real defiant." And he went right into his stats. Is that where you're going with this?
No, well, he said he explained to Simmons that the fans were chanting to trade Ben Simmons.
Okay.
To which Ben just said, I'm only thinking that we lost Game 7. So the reporter followed up by saying, well, would you like to remain in Philadelphia? To which Simmons said, quote, yeah, I love being in Philly. I love this organization. The fans are great, great people. I had a bad series. I expect that. It's Philly. That was his last words after Game 7.
Oh, and we didn't talk about that. Today was the day that Ben Simmons was supposed to talk. Like, that was another reason
he didn't
why
want to talk, so he got himself.
He got
Jerry
himself kicked
Mitchell
out of practice.
got himself kicked out of practice.
Yeah, that's kind of how I do sometimes here on the Sports Bash. I don't want to talk to you, so I just wait until you kick me out.
Oh, man. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So I'm going to try to ask you this question.
Oh, boy.
And see if you can answer it this time around.
All right.
Okay. So currently in the NFC playoff race, Pete Thompson,
Yes.
we have New Orleans 3-2, Minnesota 3-3. They currently have the last two wild card spots. Philadelphia is 2-4. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the teams that are in front of Philadelphia. New Orleans 3-2, Minnesota 3-3, Chicago 3-3, Carolina, who you've already beaten, 3-3, San Francisco 2-3, Atlanta, who you've already beaten, 2-3, and Philadelphia 2-4. Do you think that Eagles are legitimately in the wild card race? Two spots up for grab.
Right. Currently, yeah, especially since, we talked to Grayson over the weekend too. And, now they could conceivably win their next two games, right? The Raiders game looked a little more difficult, although the Raiders did look pretty good without the guy in his emails. But they could, if they were able to, all their wins so far have come on the road. If they were able to win another one on the road and then they beat the Lions on the road, they even their record up at 500. I'm with you. I don't see any path to victory, as Casey Joyner always says, against the Chargers. But yeah, I mean, they're a legitimate, in the hunt because the NFC is so bad.
Right. Now, they have the easiest schedule in football remaining.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. I mean, but then again, it's only as good, look, this check you're writing is only as good as their ability to actually go out and beat a good team somewhere, As you look through, were the Falcons a good team? No. Were the Panthers or were they a paper lion, right? Anytime they've run into a good, quote unquote, good football team, they've come up short. So until they beat a good football team, I don't see them as a playoff team. Now, it's just the Chargers and really the Cowboys are the only two left that are good teams, right? The Saints are up and down. The Broncos are tough to beat in Denver. I'll give you that. But who's afraid of the Jets, the Giants, the Washington football team, the Giants, the Washington football team? Nobody. Yeah. Not even me.
No, that 5-game stretch where they have, the Giants, the Jets, Washington, the Giants, and Washington. If they can get those 5, that would get you to 7, which means you probably need 2 more somewhere along the way between the rest of those games. Detroit, New Orleans, Chargers, Raiders, Denver. You got to get 2, and you got Dallas at the end. You're not beating Dallas.
All right. And I'm going to the Saints game, by the way, now that they're home with the Chargers first. So, I mean, if you're the home fan base, are you getting a little ticked off too? All the home games that you've seen so far, it's not that they've lost, it's how they've lost, right?
Yeah, well, you're seeing good teams. You get to see greatness. Mahomes, Brady. How about that?
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Give me your $250.
Yeah. By the way, Gabe Kapler, 37.8%. Brett Brown, 34.4%. Nick Sirianni at 21%. He just went up. And Dave Hakstol at 6.7%. He actually dropped since this conversation has started.
He's even more irrelevant than he was when he was the head coach here.
That's right. There you go. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. He's Pete Thompson. Thank you, Peter.
All right, we'll talk to you on Friday.
Happy Hour Friday with Pete Thompson. Don't miss it. He'll be back. He'll pick Eagles and Raiders for you. We got a good lineup of tonight. Nets, Bucks open the season here on 97.3 ESPN, followed by Sox and Astros. Tomorrow night, Sixers, Pelicans on 97.3 ESPN, followed by Braves and Dodgers. Thursday night football. Friday, we've got the Sixers and the Nets, followed by the Sox and the Stros. Saturday, Penn State, Illinois, Notre Dame, USC, right here on 97.3 ESPN. And on Sunday, it's Eagles, Raiders, Colts, 49ers. Coming up next, Rob Motti is here. We'll talk a little Eagles, Ben Simmons. Coming up next right here on the Sports Bash. All right, 531. So this is actually the Flyers' goal song, by the way. It's equally as bad, and it sounds like a techno version of the Tarzan song. So it still holds true that this song is no good. They should have gone with Wang Chung. All right, Rob Monty's with me. I know Rob's probably got a ton on his mind. We'll get into some Eagles, but I got to get his thoughts on what is going on with this circus, with this Ben Simmons situation, where I guess some people would say they should have saw this coming. But, Rob, you've been around all sports. You cover baseball for the AP. You have covered the NBA for the AP. You covered the NFL for the Associated Press. There is a decorum of professionalism that even if you don't want to be in a certain spot, you still do your job. Is Ben Simmons just being unprofessional, or does he have every right to act the way he's acting?
I don't think, Mike, you could ever justify someone acting like that. And, you know, Ben Simmons is a guy who I think really takes the criticism, obviously, to heart. And I sat down with him going into the 2019 season for a pretty lengthy chat. And it was when he said he came back and rediscovered his love of basketball, and he understood the necessity to start shooting and all that stuff. And then he didn't do it. But I remember talking to him in that conversation and off the camera and with the microphones away. And we talked about the criticism and social media. And he really opened up about it and how it's something that he had to take his mind away from. And it's something that he couldn't continue to look at. But clearly he didn't. Because I think part of where we are now with Ben Simmons is the intense criticism after the pass when he gave up the shot, the slam dunk opportunity. And he was just absolutely blasted after that. And no doubt he took that really. He's extremely sensitive, and he took that to heart, and that's where we are now. And there's no way you can look at what he's doing and justify coming in there and not being engaged in practice or not doing what the coach wants you to do. If he and the reports were that he asked him to be participating in a defensive.
He basically asked him to sub in, according to some reports that, hey, Ben, sub in, and he said. No,
he
not coming in.
He said no. And you
twice.
Can't.
He was asked twice.
Wow. You can't do that, man. You absolutely can't do that as a professional getting paid the amount of money that he's getting paid, Mike.
Right.
The amount of money that Ben Simmons is getting paid. I understand your feelings are hurt. I understand that the fans don't want you here and you were criticized by everybody. You got a job to do. You're getting paid to do the job. He's trying to force his way out. And I don't know how this is going to turn out because his value, I believe, the Sixers didn't think they were going to get what they thought was comparable value for him before. Well, with each passing day and his antics making it worse, how could they ever think that they're going to get anything comparable? He may have to end up sitting out the year. And they're in a better position now because now they get to suspend him, so he's not getting paid anyway.
Yeah, this thing is wild. He will not play tomorrow night. He has been suspended for the game. I don't imagine he plays Friday. I think this comes down to, Rob, he knows what's coming. Those fans are going to let him have it on Friday night, and he wants no part of it. And that's why he doesn't want to be here anymore.
He wanted no part of talking to the media today either, right?
No.
Because he was scheduled to talk to the media today. And it would not surprise me if that played into what was on his mind.
Yeah.
How can I get out of this short of pulling a fire alarm or calling in a bomb threat?
I said, you ever see the movie 3 O'Clock High?
I did not.
Oh, man, where the kid, Jerry Mitchell, he gets into this guy wants to fight him, and he doesn't want to fight the guy. So he's a newspaper writer for the school paper. The guy's like this new guy who comes into school. He's a touch freak. Jerry touches him on the shoulder and says, hey, man, I want to write a story about you. The guy looks at him. You and me are going to fight at 3 o'clock. The whole movie's Jerry trying to get kicked out of school so he doesn't have to fight the guy. I mean, he's smoking a cigarette in class. He makes out with the teacher. It's just Ben Simmons just trying to get kicked out so he doesn't have to play because he knows what's coming. And guess what? If he gets traded, He won't play in Philly. He'll be sick or rest or something for those games.
He may never play another game. The only opportunity would be if it was the finals or a playoff game, and then how's he going to show up and tell his teammates, I'm not going to go out there for a playoff game because I don't want to get booed in Philly.
Crazy. All right, let's get a couple thoughts on Philadelphia heading to Raiders Vegas this weekend. First, give me your thoughts on the Zach Ertz deal, what they ended up getting. Now, you had talked a lot, like we were surprised that he was back here because they were holding out. Zach graciously ended up coming back. You were surprised by that. In the end, Howie Roseman didn't want to trade him just to give him away. He got a 5th-round pick and a player. Did they make out in the end in holding him?
Well, I believe at this point, when you're 6 games into the season, he's on a final year of a contract, you weren't going to do any better than that. So I think a 5th-round pick and Tay Gowan, he's a body. Maybe he contributes on special teams. Maybe they develop him into a cornerback who's serviceable. I think that's about what you were going to get for Zach Ertz at this point in time. So I'm glad that he's ending up in a situation for him that is going to be potentially certainly a playoff team and potentially a Super Bowl team. He's got a chance to go there and make a difference and win. He's surrounded by talent. So I'm excited to see what Zach Ertz can do. I don't think he's done playing at a high level at 30 years old. I think the past year plus for him in Philly has been extremely difficult because of all of the circumstances off the field, the contract situation and what went down. And I know the Eagles consider him family, and I know how much he loves it here. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point down the road, he does come back, Mike, to break Harold Carmichael's record because of the way things ended. I don't think that everything is perfect between him and Howie and the organization, but I think they were able to mend things enough to the point where he certainly went out on a good note, on a positive note. We saw him speak to the media on Friday. They spoke so glowingly of him, and he deserved that. Zach Ertz has done so much for this team that he deserved a send-off like that, and it was great to see him at least catch a touchdown pass in his last game. So somewhere down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in. How many catches is he away from Harold Carmichael? It's certainly something that you could do in a 5 to 6 week span. So I could see that happening down the road.
So Dallas Goedert's now the man. Shane Steichen today kind of indicated, hey, he's explosive, he's fast, he does all these things. He did say that should be an uptick in his role. Do we anticipate now that we will see Dallas Goedert really break out and have a big season? Because he has been out targeted by Ertz 31-19. Now, I know he missed 1 week, but that's a pretty sizable, amount for 1 week of missing.
Yeah, and it's pretty important that the Eagles find out, man, because you got a guy in the final year of his rookie contract, and he's going to want a whole lot of money, and tight ends who have accomplished a little bit less than him or maybe on par with him have earned. You look at Jonnu Smith and the money that he got, and Dallas Goedert's certainly going to want to command those kind of dollars. So the Eagles have to find out over the next 10, 11 games. Is Dallas Goedert a guy that we're going to be able to retain and pay that kind of money? Or if we're a rebuilding team X amount of years away from being a playoff contender, do we let him walk and allocate those resources somewhere else? So I think he's going to get the targets, and he's going to get every opportunity to prove that he deserves that multi-million-dollar long-term deal that he's going to want. And that the Eagles, I don't think, have decided internally that they still want to give him yet.
Most times, Rob, the young quarterback will use the tight end as a security blanket. Hey, it's an easy pitch and catch. Is Hurts not throwing to him because they're not calling? That's not in the game. Why do you think a young quarterback like Hurts isn't utilizing? He happens to have 2 very good tight ends. Why is a young quarterback like Hurts not utilizing the tight end as much?
I don't know how comfortable he is making that throw over the middle, and I don't know how comfortable they are in having him make that throw over the middle to the tight ends. Because you look at the number of passes outside the hashes that he makes, right? And you look at those numbers and you say, what's going on here? What's the problem? And that's something that they got to figure this out with Jalen, because you can't live with a quarterback who's not going to make those throws, because you're going to face teams Look at what Brady and the Buccaneers did to the Eagles. They were just throwing it with it because the Eagles played them so deep, trying to take away the chunk plays. And he just attacked the short and mid-range and across the middle of the tight ends, even though Gronk was out. And you're going to have to be able to do that in the NFL. And I think that's a problem. And one of the areas where I'm at now, 6 games into this season, is I don't know if the bigger problem is Jalen Hurts can't execute certain things, or if Nick Sirianni's play calling is not even giving him that opportunity or putting him in position to do it. A combination of it. They don't have faith in him. What is it? And we're no closer right now, Mike, 6 games in, to finding out if he's the long-term answer. I think the questions are still there, and there might be even more questions than they were 3, 4, 5 games ago.
No question. I'm very interested to see how they game plan with Goddard and if they can get him rolling here a little bit more. They don't have a bye till week 12, Rob, but they had some extra time here. A lot of self-evaluation, self-scouting. Are there any changes that they could make to, I don't say the roster, but to the starting 11 on both sides of the ball? Is there any glaring need that John Gannon or Nick Sirianni would say, all right, let's make a little move here. Let's do a little something?
Well, if Lane Johnson's going to come back and be ready to go, now you're going to move Jordan Mailata back over to the left tackle spot. And I'll say this, Andre Dillard played pretty well. And that was a good thing for the depth of this team, in that Andre Dillard is a former first-round pick, and he came in there and he didn't stink. And he showed that, hey, maybe he is somebody who can still eventually be a starter in this league. So that's going to be one move they make there. Defensively, what do you do at linebacker? Davion Taylor, you're going to have to continue to give him – he got a majority of the snaps, and you got to continue to give him a look, because Eric Wilson's not the answer, and this team doesn't invest in linebackers, and that's such a problem. I don't know if the changes they have to make, though, are necessarily personnel or play calling from both sides. You look at the way Gannon attacks defensively, and he's got to figure some things out, because they're not doing a good enough job against the better teams with the better quarterbacks. And Tom Brady could have probably put 45 up there on them, but it looked like in the second half, after they went up 28-7, they just wanted to get the heck out of there healthy. And then we know what the Chiefs were able to do, and we saw what Dallas was able to do. So defensively, Gannon's got to attack this thing a little differently. And then from an offensive standpoint, I don't know how much, what is it about being in Philadelphia as a head coach that makes these guys not want to run the football? And I'm not going to sit here and ask for 50-50. I'm not going to ask for 60-40. But, man, if Miles Sanders can get you 50 yards in the fourth quarter, don't you think Miles Sanders can help that young quarterback settle in by running the ball a little bit more than one time in the first half against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I know they have the best run defense in the league, but part of that is because nobody runs against them, because they're all playing catch up. Yeah. So I think Nick Sirianni's got to really, hey, if he's self-scouted over the extra 3 days coming in, and he comes back and does the same thing, he hasn't learned from his mistakes.
Well, that, Rob, and I mean, look, I get it. The media sometimes can be critical, but when you have, guys calling your offense, garbage, a high school offense, I mean, doesn't the organization have to kind of take note of, like, man, he might be in over his head. Like, I don't want to give up on the guy as a play caller at this point, but the offense looks pretty pedestrian, and that's the reflection from multiple people around the league who they're on national television all by themselves, and the people are like, man, that offense was straight garbage. I mean, that was Steve Smith on the NFL Network. You got Seth Joyner here saying that's a high school offense that this team is running. You had Ryan Clark basically saying that's a terrible offense that they're running here. Does the organization listen to any of that?
Yeah, I think they do. I think Jeffrey Lurie's bothered by some of that. And I think, though, also at times you have to consider where some of the criticism's coming from. And different guys have different agendas, and different guys say things because they're now in the media and they have. But most of this criticism is warranted, Mike. That's for sure. When you look at the criticism that he's getting, most of it is warranted. I look at the criticism from opposing players, from guys who are on the field. And I know after that game, None of the Buccaneers. I was in there and I wanted to ask them, like, hey, how predictable was that? And they didn't want to go down that road. But we heard Jordan Mailata say it looked like we were predictable to them. Now you got your own players saying your offense is predictable. And then some of the Buccaneers were a little bit more off camera, say, yeah, we kind of knew what they were going to do. This is their MO. This is how.
Yeah, Aikman all night long, by the way, Rob. Aikman's like, okay, I think Tampa Bay's on to that play.
It's so you got a predictable offense and everyone knows what's coming. You got to do something different and you got to change. Like a play action doesn't work. A play action, nobody's fooled by a play action when you run the football once in the first half. Nobody's afraid of that anymore. So the criticism's warranted, and I want to see. This is a big week against the Raiders because you know what, I think for all the Raiders went through, they rallied around their new coach and they won that game. I think this is a winnable football game for the Eagles, right? And it's good. You had the extra time rest. You had the team coming off now. They had the little bit of hey, let's win this one for our coach. And we went through the whole Gruden stuff. Now it's back to reality, and there's still chaos there. I think there's still turmoil there. It's tumultuous circumstances for the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is a game where the Eagles can go down there or up there or over there, however you look at it geographically, and steal one from a team. And it's going to come down to, what did they learn? How did they self-scout?
I agree. I'll leave with this. You know, the wild card, is it ridiculous to suggest that they are in play there? They are 2-4. New Orleans is 3-2. They are the 6th seed. Minnesota is 3-3. They are the 7th seed. Carolina, Atlanta, those are two teams in front of you. San Francisco. I mean, it's not great.
No, and I think when all said and done,
Chicago, by the way, they're in there.
There you go. I think when it's all said and done, though, you'll have that 7th place team will still be a 9-win football team, and I don't think the Eagles have what it takes to get there. I think at this point, I started out in the 7 to 9 range with the Eagles, and I'm looking at them now and saying I don't know how they get to 7 because I have not been impressed, and I have more questions 6 games in than I did 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, and to me, it's looking worse than it did coming into the season for this organization, and that's not a positive thing. That's not an encouraging situation to be in right now. So I don't. You got to win this game, and then you could still stay in the mix. I just want to see them in it. I want to see December games that actually matter one way or another. They're not going to win the division, but hey, if you can fight for that 7th spot and go into a game needing 7 things to happen to get into playoffs, that's better than nothing.
Rob Motti from the Associated Press, at Rob Motti on Twitter. And, of course, you can hear Faith on the Field. Rob's the host. And, of course, that's on Saturday morning at 9, Sunday morning 6:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. And we'll find out more about that when we talk to Rob on Thursday's show. All right, Rob, we'll see.
Thank you, bud.
There's Rob Motti for the Associated Press. Yeah, he's right. You know, look, they got to get a game this weekend that it's a winnable game. We talked about it earlier. There are a couple games left on the schedule that are winnable games against teams that are not Super Bowl contenders. This is how we'll see how you stack up. We'll close out the show coming up next. All right, that'll do it for the Sports Bash today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you didn't, we'll try to do better tomorrow. That's a promise. Ben Simmons, thank you. Thank you for ruining everybody's pleasure today. What a show. What unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Text it with Tim Legler. We'll try to get him on tomorrow, see what he has to say about it. Mike McGarry's here tomorrow. Also, Cup of Joe with Joe Valerio. Talking football with him. Fine Five, Ugly Five. Josh has Brian Toporek, national NBA writer, covers the Sixers, coming up in game night in about 25 minutes from now here on the Sports Bash. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Coming up, we've got the Nets and the Bucks at 7 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night.